Welcome back, everybody, to Stride Esports League Week 5. I'm back, Joshua Joshi Howard, and as always, joined by Carl Krieger, the tongue twister himself. You had the most ravishing man on the internet, but now you have me once again. We'll be going through the Varsity Chess Week 5 here on Tuesdays, but we got to get into it first. Carl, how are you feeling today?
Feeling pretty good. Welcome back, sir. Good to have you back. We had a fun, kind of a crazy week last week. We had 5 move games. We had 2 seconds on the timer for each player. Had a crazy time scramble. So we had a lot going on, but hopefully back to some more calm chess this
More
week.
calm chess, maybe a little bit less poetry. I did hear that Ravish taught you a little bit more about what Zugzwang is, and we might have a chance to talk about that a little bit later in our own analysis of the games. But while we wait for it, we do got to do all of our due diligence. Let's take you guys through the schedule of what we will be doing this week and for the rest of the day. As always, we have different games on every single day, starting with League, Chess, Fortnite, Rocket League, and ending it off with Valorant Fridays. And so for every single day, we will also do a very similar thing where we will start on the eastern coast and make like the settlers, moving west towards the Oregon side of the country. Eastern at 5, Central at 6. We have an hour break where we have a little bit of coaching. We'll do a couple show matches for you, and we'll end it off over in the West. But with all that said and done, we've done all of our due diligence. Now we're just waiting for some of the games to actually start. And Carl, I know you were looking at it a little bit before. It sounds like we actually have some of the top of the table players coming out from the Eastern region.
Indeed, that is my understanding. We have a 3-0 player and a 2-1 player. So these teams battling it out for the top of the table. Although my stats may have been a little bit incorrect. It's actually 4-0 and 3-1. It looks
There you
like
go.
here. So very 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 strong teams. It is going to be the Michigan Virtual Charter Academy, represented by Lizzie, who is 4-0 thus far, taking on Ireland of the Ohio Virtual Academy, who is 3-1 so far in the season. So both of these players have got some dubs under the belt, and they are looking to stay at the top of the table.
Yeah, and I've also been kind of impressed looking at Lizzie's profile on the chess.com website because she's got a lot of games played, right? Over 1,000 rapid games already, and Total Math Wiz is no slouch themselves. Already got 600 for Ireland, and this is one of those things where you can tell like both these players have been playing. They've been grinding for a little while now, and so this is where we can actually start to see maybe some of our players actually understand a little bit of theory, a little bit of the opening prep to actually try and challenge each other with how much that they've been playing.
Indeed, right? You get so many games under the belt. I would imagine each of these players has some sort of pet opening, some pet lines that they like to play. Usually happens. You play enough games, eventually you're going to figure out something that you like, right? And so I think we will probably see a little bit more a little bit more principled opening phase, maybe a fewer kind of one move blunders. Now that they have this much experience under the belt, and also just having that experience of the competitive play, right? You're on to week 5, so you're sort of used to the pressure, you're used to the routine at this point. So I'm looking forward to some strong games. But both these players, a lot of games, like you said, and pretty high in the division system on chess.com. We've got some champions, we've got some
Oh,
legends, I think. So
whoa, there
uh,
actually is a
these,
legend. That's
yeah,
crazy.
these players are cooking with gas.
Yeah, so for context, right? Like I play a lot of chess. I'm currently in the division below legend. We are
Okay.
seeing that Ireland plays more chess than we do on this website. So that's actually very impressive, right? And it's a sustained lot of chess. And so that could be exciting to actually see how they play because one of the big things that we always talk about here on the Chess Tuesdays is we have an opportunity to kind of look at the different kinds of openings that people like to play. I know Carl has talked about how he's a big Ponziani player. He, plays a little bit of the Grunfeld. I tend to play like Queen's Gambit style positions quite a bit, but we don't really know what our players today tend to play. I wonder if I can get a little bit of insight. Maybe Total Math Wiz has, or Ireland, sorry, does have something. King's Fianchetto in their most recent game, which, is a very principled
Mhm.
system where you just kind of set up and don't take a whole lot of risks. I wonder if we're going to get something like a King's Indian Attack style game coming out today.
Yeah, we could find out. I guess we can do a little opening. This is sort of how you do opening prep on your own. If you know your opponents, I believe Lizzie is playing with the white pieces. I think that's true.
For the
Um,
first game.
that is true. So you
Mhm.
can. There's a fun website called Opening Tree. You can sort of just go pick up the games. You can look up the player, and it does look like she is primarily, almost exclusively, a D4 player with
Oh,
the white piece. That's what Opening Tree at least is telling me so far. So you learn a new thing
that's
every
good
day.
to know. I did not know that that website existed. That if you do know who your opponent is, that is a very useful way to kind of scout them, right? If you can get a little bit of prep, but as it sounds like our players are ready to get into the game, we will be getting that ready to go shortly. So it should be just a couple more moments before we actually jump into that. But I actually noticed something very interesting in Ireland's recent games.
Okay.
They played the Amazon attack, which
Oh,
I would be surprised if anybody in the audience actually knew what that was, because
I don't
I
know what
saw
that
it, I
is.
had no idea. It
Yeah, me
starts
neither.
with D4, D5,
Okay.
Queen D3.
Oh, the Amazon attack.
Yeah,
Wow,
the
that
Amazon
is
attack.
yeah, D00 is the code. Um, wow. I guess
For
you learn
anybody
something new
in
every
the
day.
audience, most openings have some kind of code attached to them. So when you go through the database, you can kind of sort by different things. But as we pull up the first game,
Oh,
we got them ready on the
we're
board.
expecting D4
There it is, directly
based
coming through.
based on our opening prep.
Almost everybody here will be doing D5, but instead it's an English defense. I, as a D4 player, really don't enjoy seeing it because it really locks down this diagonal and makes it harder to fianchetto your own bishop. But does show a little bit of opportunity to create a lot of counterplay. In these kind of positions, you'll oftentimes see that the king will castle long for black, and it will force white into a situation where they might not be as comfortable creating a lot of early counterplay.
Absolutely. Going back to the opening tree, this is now a new position for Lizzie. Never
Wow.
had knight f6 played against them. It was always bishop to b7. That happened 8 times. So I guess technically out of book at this point, although maybe a transposition right
Yeah,
here.
probably a transposition at this
Um,
point. These are pretty standard moves.
yeah, from that, but sort of like we called out, relatively normal opening so far, right? I mean, this has a name that most people would recognize that play chess. Principles being followed, and
Whoa.
we're playing chess.
Whoa. Just jumping right on into the middle. Ireland ready to go on an attack. And obviously, it is defended by this bishop, so it will be an even trade at the end of it. But one of the things that we always look at from this is, what pieces are going to still be on the board. You'll notice that, there's still all these pieces in the back, and because it's white's turn, they maintain a little bit of a tempo advantage. But the only thing that they're kind of looking at is this bishop is a little wonky, right? It's going to be a little bit hard to get the dark squared bishop out of the base, so to say.
Just a bit. Sort of stuck behind the pawn, stuck behind the troops at this point. I think some sort of maybe bishop to e2 in that position would have preserved some options for the bishop, but some more pawns being pushed. The bishop and knight just sort of having this stare down uh, in the center of the board. I'm actually glad to see the players not just immediately trading. That's something that we talked about a little bit, I think, last week. Where newer players will just sort of trade at any opportunity. Rav was saying he just takes every piece he can,
Yep.
which is not always the best move.
Not always. Usually not, actually. We call this keeping the tension in chess terms, right? When pieces can take each other but are choosing not to. You oftentimes see this, especially at the highest level, with pawns in the center of the board. But we're also seeing our players using their clock effectively, right? They're not just, throwing out moves as quickly as possible. It's like, yeah, that looks good. No, we're actually seeing some principled ideas. We have this strong bishop pair staring over here, so that does create some pressures not to castle short, but Lizzie's not afraid.
Absolutely not afraid. Castle straight into it. Um,
I would
it
think about not doing that. No, I'm not saying I dislike it, and clearly the computer prefers the position, but it's one of those things where, when there's still so much going on the board, this king hasn't committed itself. It can still just launch pawns at you, and suddenly your position becomes very cramped and uncomfortable.
Absolutely. I think something like h5, h4 in that position, or even just g4 or g5, g4, putting pressure on the knight, something like that can just pose a lot of problems. Maybe not to a computer, of course, but to a human can pose a lot of issues, right? Where you need to play very, very accurate defense and a single, oversight, and you can find yourself getting mated very, very quickly.
Yeah. So, throwing all these pawns out. So one of the big things that you'll also hear us talk about, right, is because there are 7 of the white pawns on dark squares, this bishop now needs to do overtime. It is going to be one of the big things where you cannot afford to trade off this bishop and immediately putting more pressure on the knight. The thing is, this knight, it's tough for this knight to leave, right? Because if you just give up this diagonal, there are suddenly all kinds of bad intentions on the H file.
Things can go wrong here very quickly. And as Black brings more pieces to the attack, as Ireland is continuing this assault, it gets scarier and scarier, I think, to play here with the white pieces, just because there's so many things that can go wrong. There's pins, the bishops are staring down, the knight is now forced off onto the rim, but now needs to make sure that it's able to stay in the game here. And something like G5 just immediately removes that knight.
Yeah. So if G5 comes through, the knight it'll probably go back to G2 where we'll have a little bit of safety, help control a little bit of the dark squares. But again, right, this bishop is going to be the primary defender, and because it's on E2 and not on G2, it's not quite as easily able to control these squares. It's not ridiculous to just create more pressure here, but at the same time, we still have a lot of pieces that are not in the attack, and while you only have 3 pieces attacking and arguably 4 pieces defending, it's gonna be very hard for Black to actually get an attack to work.
I agree. There's nothing really concrete here, right? There's sort of ideas that the computer doesn't believe in because it's a computer, and it knows how to defend perfectly. So you have this like sort of idea of pressure, but nothing super concrete on the board. I think something like F3 right now, maybe not even a terrible move. Um,
Yeah, Peter
just
thinks
to
it's
kick the
fine.
bishop out, you can maybe play E4, threaten E5 in the position to fork there as well. So a lot of options here, I think, for White, who seems to very quickly is unraveling this
Uh-oh.
position, as that is likely going to end up with a piece getting forked or trapped.
Yeah, the problem is now you have to give up this bishop here, or it's going to be a piece given up on the next square as the pawns continue to be pushed. I think the computer really wanted the bishop to go off on this diagonal and trade itself for the knight, and maybe opening up this file so that the rook suddenly has access to the attack. But as it is, looks like we have our first real advantage coming out from the game as Lizzie creates pressure onto Ireland's bishop, and if not, onto the bishop and the queen, where they will eventually come out for a bishop for a pawn.
Yes, indeed. Essentially, winning a piece by force here. Attacking this bishop. If you move, I'm just going to attack the next bishop and the queen at the same time. Total math whiz. In the tank a little bit. Ireland thinking about this one, but there is nothing really to do here except give up one of the pieces. You're essentially just trying to figure out at this point, what do you want to give it up for? And I think this bishop does actually need to capture something right now, because if it moves, it can just be taken straight away for
Yeah.
nothing, and the threat of the fork is still there.
Now I'm actually curious, what the computer would say. Oh,
Ooh. That had not even occurred to me.
same.
The bar did not move.
Bar did
So
not move.
best
That is
move.
true.
I think because if takes back, you can take with the queen, trade the queens, and then you take with the knight and get a square for the bishop to move back while also attacking the bishop if takes. But the
Hmm.
counterattack,
This is
curious.
suddenly kind of a wild position. The king's file suddenly opening up, but it ends up being so far bishop for 2 pawns instead of just one. Although of course this can be taken back, that will probably result in a queen trade or a winning of a pawn. So good sight coming out from Ireland as we see another pawn shoved forward. I think he probably I take that and don't really think about it if I'm completely honest.
Yep, I do too. I'm up a piece. I'm just trading at this point. Take the
Yeah,
pawn, bring my bishop in, centralize the rook.
yeah.
Maybe look to develop the dark square bishop at some point. But I think life is good right now if you're piloting the white pieces.
Yeah. I'm definitely suddenly, the attack that we were seeing building up for Black now completely gone. Lizzie has consolidated her position and now she just needs to take some time to build up and create an attack of her own. E-file is open, but with the option to castle either way instantly. It's not as though the king is under dire threat. But one of the other things that we are seeing is that, whoa, Okay, this is actually creating a little bit of problems too, right? Because I was kind of expecting, you know, bishop d3 coming out, followed by rook e1, just to kind of force the king to make some decisions. And now, if that happens, it's also coming with a winning of the queen.
Indeed. The queen would be pinned to the king, and there is that, the first move in that sequence. Now, essentially, the king or the queen's got to get out of dodge real quick,
Yeah.
um, or bad things will happen. I think. Can you just castle here?
Yeah, that's definitely my first instinct is short castling. Just get off the open file, allow the queen to move without fear of repercussions. But I also kind of wonder, right, because we've also already seen a couple surprising moves coming out from Ireland, and they're very, what's the term? Very not aggressive, but instigating, right? Creating their problem, creating a lot of opportunities tactically, but now runs directly into this, and it can be blocked by the knight briefly, but it is very quickly picked off by pawn to the f4. I'm not sure what he missed.
Indeed. You can now play knight to e5,
Hmm.
which maybe saves the queen.
Just giving
That
it
does
up.
not save the queen. That does essentially sacrifice the queen.
Busy
Um,
save the queen.
one of the pawns recaptures. You can take the pawn on c4 with the bishop and sort of just enjoy your position,
Yeah.
a piece up.
Now this pawn suddenly is a passer, and you do push it forward with check. So now I'm expecting the rook to come over to the d file to try and hang on to that for as long as possible. This is really the only counterplay that we're seeing for Ireland in the position for a while is this pawn. And so Lizzie either needs to come up with an attack that is more threatening than this pawn or actually deal with the pawn itself. But this doesn't necessarily solve it because it does just get kicked, right? A very similar position to where we saw where it could have just been kicked by the f pawn previously.
Yep. You can just play a3. You can also play queen to a4 check. Um,
You can also just
just
take it.
That's also true. Yeah, just go for the trade, win a pawn. I thought maybe rook to d8 was there or long castle, which would have put the rook there. Um, but instead, the queen is there. You cannot castle that direction anymore. Um, Decides to bring the rook over. Many ideas here. You can check with the queen. Probably what I would have done. Just hey, it's a check.
Mhm.
Um, I think the last thing to do here is just to move the dark square bishop off the back rank, get that into the game, and free up the rook in the corner.
Yeah. So now one of the big things is because there's not necessarily enough material to go on an obvious attack. There's enough defenders on the board that sacrifices will be difficult to find. It's probably going to be mostly about the pawns from here on out, right? You just got to make sure you pick up all of these pawns. You got to create a 2v0 over on this side of the board and then push from there. A little bit surprised by this move, but it does set up for a
Would
fork.
be a g5, yeah. Presumably that's the idea, and that's the kind of thing you have to go for in this type of position, right? It's little tricks like that that maybe can get you back in.
Yeah.
I assume this will be spotted, but you never know. You got to try something at this point.
Oh,
I like that move.
I like that move a lot. Coming through. Dodge out on the fork, create some pressure on the rook immediately. Rook can just move here, but ultimately it's just trying to defend all the threats. And now you're seeing that Ireland, a little bit lower on time as well, is going to kind of struggle to deal with everything that Lizzie is trying to do. And so you gotta see a little bit faster moves coming out from Ireland if he wants to recover that. Because even if the position is unplayable, sometimes the clock is like your friend.
That is absolutely true. Infiltrating with the queen. I don't hate this idea, although again, there's no real actual threat here right now.
Yeah,
Um, King e2 and rook d1 maybe just to try to trade off a pair of rooks, but the bishop is actually defending quite nicely
yeah.
in this situation, and the king is relatively safe at this point in time.
I really like rook c8 coming through,
Yeah,
pinning the bishop to the queen, and then I think that does result in a winning of the bishop. But the
it's a
computer hates it.
why it's a big
Why?
threat, but it's not good.
Oh,
Bishop
because check
d6,
wins the rook.
king d8,
Oh,
bishop
true?
d6, king d8. What do you have there? Something. This is one of my favorite parts of watching chess is when you like there's something here that's good for white, but it looks bad.
Yeah.
But why? Okay, that is
Okay.
the not the best move. Maybe it
That's the move
is.
that we were looking at.
The
So
computer for me
now,
went from like 18 to like 5.
oh, your engine disagrees a little bit. Mine is looking at 7.3 for white.
Okay.
But
maybe
now,
maybe it was knight f. That just
oh,
allows the rook to be taken.
yeah.
But I was thinking maybe knight f5 with some sort of getting the queen back into the game and escaping with the bishop. Not sure. Um, doesn't really matter at this point since our brilliant calculations were not followed by the players.
And
But
it looks like our calculations weren't right anyway, but
yeah, can't
now
win them
we start
all.
looking at this, right? This check as protected by the bishop is a little bit of a source of counterplay, but like this queen is in, right? You
Yep.
know, you can kind of ignore a couple of these checks and that'll work as well. But you just got to make sure that this queen doesn't just start gobbling all the pawns. And so,
Yep.
again, huge problems coming in for Ireland's position. But because we're only down to 3 minutes for Lizzie, if he just creates a lot of threats over and over quickly, it can create space. And if he does get Rook H1 off,
Yep.
it will win the Rook on the
Rook
A
d1.
square.
Got to be rook d1 here. It's a mate threat. I think almost forces the trade of rooks with
Yeah.
the check and just trade the rooks. I could be wrong, but it does threaten mate. Queen d8 would be mate.
Yep, as the king would not be able to get out on the diagonal.
The knight is also being trapped with g5.
Yep,
Um,
does find it.
sees that. I
So what
think
you
you
were
have to
calling out,
check.
Carl? Yeah,
Go
the
ahead.
rook h1, forcing the king up, and then you take it, so you get a trade. Is
Oh,
that
fancy. I don't think it actually does a whole lot because you can just move the king back to e2 if you get checked. But
hmm
you got to be careful, right? I mean, there's some things going on here that you can mess this up. Still, it's almost never too late to blunder something
Yeah.
in a chess game.
Whoa.
Okay, blocks the threat.
Does block the threat. I guess it keeps the king on this square instead, so it's a little bit further from any potential endgames.
I think there probably was a way to win the rook there, or win the bishop essentially by checking with the queen in some kind of geometry. But I think this is totally fine, right? You're up a whole queen. Start gobbling some pawns. Make sure you don't lose your queen.
Yep.
Basically, in my opinion, in this kind of game, just keep your king on a light square, and you can never get skewered. Like you can never get forked. You can never like nothing can go wrong if the king's on a light square and the queen can do whatever she wants.
Yeah, for white, just to be clear, right?
Yes.
You know, this king can be attacked by, the queen, the knight, as they can shift between the different colors, but now we have our 2 on 0, bishop traded off. Uh, the same number of pawns, but one of these players is up an entire queen. So now just gotta be playing fast. Hope that your opponent makes a couple of mistakes. There's no way that Lizzie's going to find this mate in 24.
But likely to find some sort of win here. This should be pretty straightforward. Only thing to watch out for is stalemates. We had a double stalemate last week,
Ooh,
and we discovered that stalemates actually don't count. It's like the old World Championship rules, where the draws just don't count. So it basically we just started the best of three over twice.
mate
So
in
we
50.
have mate
I
in
love.
8 now,
Yeah,
um, as the computer modifies its view just a little bit.
I love silly computer evaluations where it's like plus
Yeah.
75, but we can't find mate yet on this depth.
Yeah, we're not a strong enough computer to figure out how to win, but we know it's out there.
Yeah. Anyway, at this point, as the pawns do get cleaned up, comes gets that one with check, and now there's no way to stop the queening on the a8 square. This should be a rather simple ladder mate I'm expecting coming out from Lizzie in a few moments.
Indeed. Also, just important, I would recommend not taking the pawn in this type of position where you can. It's a lot harder to stalemate if the opponent has a pawn. If you're worried about it, you can just put your king on h1, so the pawn never promotes, and that works. But this is mate into king moves forward, and there now is checkmate in the position. That is
They
one way
find
to
it.
do it, and it is a win for Lizzie over Ireland in pretty convincing fashion. I think Lizzie looked pretty confident in that game and overall played a very nice game.
Yeah. I mean, we saw some attacking ideas coming out from Ireland, right? Had the bishop pair staring down towards the short castled king, but ultimately it wasn't enough from there, blundering a bishop out. But it wasn't just a one move blunder, right? It's not just moving pieces and they just happen to be taken away. It is definitely a spot where there was some ideas coming through. Lizzie just found a couple of these patterns that Ireland wasn't looking out for, and that's a little bit of the rating difference coming into play. But ultimately, it's one of those things that just kind of happen, right? If I am Ireland, I don't feel particularly bad about this game.
Yeah, I don't feel terrible about it. Nope, take two. I don't feel terrible about it either. If I am him, I mean, I think he played a solid game of chess, right, and just wasn't the one that came out ahead. But no crazy one move blunders. Didn't drop a queen on move five. Played a reasonable opening, and had I think pretty reasonable attacking chances. It looked pretty good, and they just sort of fizzled out a little bit. Wasn't able to quite keep up the pressure. I think some sort of pawn storm I think might have posed a little bit more of a challenge for Lizzie once he had that bishop pair playing something like h5, g5, pushing those pawns forward and maybe castling along
Yeah,
toward the queen side. Maybe would have posed a little bit more of a challenge, but I think a pretty solid game thus
yeah.
far and a quality game of chess.
In general, I generally find one of the reasons why I recommend the Scotch to a lot of newer players in particular, as opposed to, kind of some of these more modern ideas like the early fianchetto of the queenside bishop for black, is while they are objectively good positions to play, right? They are good ways to get drawing chances at the grandmaster level. For players who are intermediate and weaker, they tend to be in a spot where there are too many pawns on the board. The center is closed, and those positions are hard to know what's going on, right? I'm sure even Carl, you have a lot of situations where it's like, what is happening in this position? There's just so many closed diagonals. It's hard to maneuver the knights, and it's very difficult to come up with plans.
Yeah, you're sort of left wondering, what do I do now?
Yeah,
At this point, and I think that's one of the worst feelings I have when I play chess is like I unironically don't know what to do in this position. You just sort of like move a rook back and forth or shuffle a little bit, but that's a lot of times how you can just sort of get slowly outplayed too, right? Is you're not making any progress and your opponent is slowly improving their pieces, and then you're going to get crushed. And that's how you play a great positional game in those sort of closed structures. Is you just play slowly, methodically, improve your position, and eventually something will work, something will break. Um, but yeah, it's definitely closed positions are they're hard to play.
yeah. I wonder almost then, right? Because one of the weird like pawn structures and early setups you can go for as black in particular is called the hippo, right? And I'm sure you've encountered it plenty of times in your just like ladder games on chess.com, right? Where you just see people turtling up and it's really hard to break them. And eventually you have to try and find some way to break the stalemate of the position. But we are starting to get into our second game. And as kind of expected in the first place, we do have Total Math Wiz Ireland going to be starting as the white pieces. We already have our first move on the board, E3 Van Cruys opening.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with this. I think I looked it up. I actually have a great score with this move
Oh,
from mouse slipping e3, trying to play e4.
fantastic.
But I looked it up once. I think I was like 7 out of 8 or something. Like it was crazy.
That's
But
very
I
impressive.
don't I know almost nothing about this move. Usually I just sort of play d4 c4 and pretend that it was deliberate. But I actually know almost nothing about this position.
Yeah, I can't say I know a whole lot about Van Cruy. I never intentionally play this move.
Right.
Right. And so, what Carl was saying, oh my God. Yesterday, you were talking about a game that started like this. Then we had the knight come through and then pushing this pawn. This is very similar to a wayward queen attack, except the pawn is on e3. I'm trying to think of like real differences that makes in the position.
I don't think there really are any. Um, I like knight f6. Important to play. Just to kind of note, this is a very common beginner trap. Playing knight c6 on move two is a lot better. It's very tempting to challenge the
Oh,
queen. I might not have time for this point. It's very tempting to challenge the queen with knight to f6 immediately, but then you can take the pawn on e5, which would be undefended.
yeah.
Maybe we can show that later. But for now, this queen really living up to the name, the wayward queen attack, as that queen is now actually hanging.
Well, good game.
That queen has been chopped off the board as wayward queen attack gone awry. I think
Yeah,
it's fair to say on this one, Josh, is this game just sort of a very different tone to game number one.
yeah. I mean, it looked like there was some opportunities for unusual openings, but this almost looks like a concession of the game, right? Because after pawn takes, queen takes, and the king has no squares. Can't
Yep.
castle, can't get out. It's going to take a couple of moves for any of your pieces to come out, and so, you know, this very different game than our first one.
Yeah, that is a sort of devastating attack. Bishop b4 in the position, not anymore. Um, but lots of ways to do this. Maybe knight e4, just attack that bishop. You just want to trade off pieces, in my view.
I mean,
At this
I
point.
I just bring this rook here,
Yeah, that works too.
and then suddenly it reopens
Yep.
bishop b4 because, queen d1 would be checkmate. Like this is you can already see the evaluation minus 22.
Oh,
Long castles does
very
the same
fancy.
thing.
Very fancy. But it looks cooler.
Looks cooler. Move two pieces at the same time. This is also in the position mate in 6. Don't know if we'll find it immediately, but not a lot of good ways to continue this as
Yeah. Bishop
creating
b.
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, bishop b4. B4 sort of just walks into it, almost invites it in the position. You can just take knight e4, also not a bad option. There's a lot of ways to do this here. Just don't take the bishop, I
Must
guess, would
admit,
be.
I'm a little bit disappointed. I was very excited about the first game that we actually had between Lizzie and Ireland, and this is I mean, when you hang a queen on move 5, there's not a whole lot left to do. A lot of times, as the b4 bishop b4 is now finally taken off the board, but when you try and take your opponent out of prep, sometimes you kind of forget about some of the intricacies of the position because you probably haven't done as much prep in it either. But this is a very bold way of playing, right? There's not a lot of counterplay in the position, but opening up the C file and opening up attacks towards Black's king is one way to create some problems for yourself.
Bishop b4 again. I think has to be the best move here. You basically have to understand that the bishop cannot be taken. If the bishop were taken, I like this move too.
Hmm.
Um, it would be queen to d1 with checkmate. But now just a crushing black attack. Again, the white king just has nowhere to go in this position. I would just take this with the knight and then play bishop to b4 again, and the rook would be pinned. That's also
That
very
also
smart. That
works.
works. Yep. Blocks mate in 5 somewhere here. You can take that with the queen. You can also take the rook if you want to, which would threaten mate in 1.
Dealer's choice at this point, honestly, right?
Yep.
There's so many different ways to do this.
Many ways to go about this.
Anyways.
You also have queen takes on e1, king e2, knight c3 check,
Ooh,
which would be a
getting
fork. And
fancy with it.
you also have to pick up the rook in the corner.
Hmm. Yeah, and after king e2, right? This is probably the way that I do it. Get the king back on the back rank, and then threaten different ways of bringing in the rook.
Yep,
So, okay.
that works. Totally fine. The fork is still in the position.
Oh, no longer.
Many things to do here. Rook is no longer under attack, but the knight is actually being threatened. That works.
Getting out of
King,
danger.
yeah, king g4. King's going for a walk, getting a little exercise. I like that. King gonna continue to get pushed. There's got to be some fun mate here.
I'm
G6
hoping for.
bishop f G6 bishop f8.
Yeah, I think you and I were looking at the same thing as a fun way to kind of close out the game. There you
Come
go.
on,
All right.
bishop
Now,
f8,
which
bishop
which
f8.
direction?
It's actually mate in 1 either way. Knight f3, I think is mate. Yeah, it is. That is
Oh,
unfortunately not mate. You can take the knight, but there's still mate in 1 in the position. Bishop to e7, I believe. Yep, would be checkmate. We will see if Lizzie's able to find it.
not quite mate in one, but the job will get done here fairly soon. Kind of regardless. There's not a whole lot of ways this rook is, super offsides, can't necessarily participate in the rest of the game. What if you just push this pawn?
Certainly can. Bishop b7.
I almost hung
Also,
my queen by looking at a queen
nice.
f2 and then
Don't do that.
don't do that.
You're still winning, but
Still winning,
probably
still up a
unwise.
rook and a bishop.
Yeah, probably not too wise. Don't need to do that.
That that's a funny move.
That is a funny move. Doesn't really achieve a whole lot. I don't think. You can just take that. Doesn't take it back. Now you can play bishop takes on f2. Yeah, and the rook actually will have to capture back.
True. It is the only legal move in the position as the bishop controls here and the queen controls all the other squares. Only move.
Okay.
And then this is checkmate.
Yes, it
There
is.
we
And
go.
there it is. Lizzie able to improve to 5-0 in the league thus far. Michigan Virtual Charter Academy representing here in the Eastern region.
Honestly, impressive stuff coming through, right? Not being taken aback by anything that Ireland was doing early on. The first game was pretty close until suddenly it wasn't, but that's how the game of chess works, right? Chess is a brutal game. A single mistake can be all that it takes to, really turn the tides of how all the games are suddenly going. And unfortunately, this time, not seeing that the queen was hanging was Ireland's
Yep.
downfall, but quick 2-0 coming out from Lizzie, as you said, improving to 5-0 already in the Stride Esports League.
Indeed, very, very strong score thus far. Unfortunately, 3-2 is now the score for Ireland, but still in the positive category, still in the top half of the table, setting themselves up well for playoffs. And as we noted, these players both play a lot, so a lot of chance for improvement there. They're clearly on the grind, and single mistake just can pretty much be the knockout blow for the match.
Yeah. And I'm actually curious, we are going to be going into show matches fairly soon, but Carl, have you ever had a chess coach?
I had chess lessons, so I took like lessons in like a group at my city's community center with I think he's a FIDE master. I wasn't really aware of the titles at the time, but I looked him
Mhm.
up later in life, and I think he's a FIDE master. So sort of, never really privately, but I
Sure.
went to a class when I was like 7 years old. What about you?
I've never had a chess coach. We can tell a story about how I got kicked out of my middle school chess club at a later time, but in the meantime, never had any official instruction in any setting, just mostly playing with my dad and other people online. But anyway, with that, we are going to take a short break here in just a moment while we get things set up. And because we have so much time while we wait for the central region to actually play, we're going to have a little bit more demonstrations of a couple of different positions that we can potentially come through between myself and Carl. So we will be back in a few minutes with a couple show matches. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the Stride Esports League Week 5. We just saw Lizzie take down Ireland in one very quick decisive game and one that was a little bit more of a battle. But we're going to be getting into a couple show matches between myself and Carl here in just a moment as I go ahead and accept. And as the board actually starts off, I'm curious, Carl, is there any kind of positions you want us to be playing today? What
Not
about a
particularly.
Sicilian?
We can do that. We can do this again. We can try this game
Oh,
again.
yeah, we did do this. All right.
You gonna
Now,
accept my gambit today or no?
I will
Yes.
accept it again.
You
Just
declined it
to
last time. What do you mean again? There's no again
Oh,
here.
did I decline it?
Yeah,
Oh,
you said no.
yeah.
Didn't want to do it. I just bought actually. I just got in the mail Mayhem in the Mora, which is a wonderful
Oh,
book.
that's
Um,
exciting.
it is. I haven't read it yet. I have not read it yet. So you're in luck for another day. But
All right, okay,
uh,
okay, okay, okay.
for now you're good. But apparently, it's a good book. I've never really read it, but I asked in some chess chats. I was like, "Hey, Mora books," and like the entire chat was like Mayhem in the Mora. So I figured I
No,
can't say no to chat, right?
has to be worth some here at the
No, of
very
course,
least.
absolutely.
All right. Now we're already in a position where I don't like your bishop, but I don't know what to do about it. I don't know if there's anything I can do about it.
I don't know which bishop don't you like. The light square bishop.
The light square bishop's okay for now,
Okay.
but I don't like having weak dark squares
You think it's fair to say you're almost never supposed to take when
as black.
opponents do this? Yeah,
Yeah, you almost never do because if the queen gets in, right, they threaten to get to
right. A lot of people. I've had a lot of
G7.
people taking against me in like bullet games, and I'm sort of like, no, don't do that. That's bad.
Yeah.
Wrong.
So and generally try and find some way to force white to take, or they can just take on their own. That is also reasonable. All right, now I was contemplating before whether or not I could jump here to G4 with one of these knights.
We played a similar something similar in one of the games that you crushed me in, where I got stuck in the center and then lost. So
Yeah,
I don't think you can, but yeah,
I don't
get out of
think I
here.
can right
I
now.
don't think you can either. Sorry,
I probably can later, but just not right now.
not currently. Being a little bit passive.
Yeah,
H3. All right, I see
want
you.
to dissuade E5 on the board. What
Goes
do I
for
do with my
castles.
bishop? I don't know. My bishop doesn't know what it wants to do yet.
I'm sorry to hear
Indecisive.
that. Our current life score is 3-2. By the way, I think you guys can see that on the screen.
I thought it was 3.5, 2.5, because we had that draw.
Oh, it's true. All right. Well, it currently the screen says 3-2, so we can discard that draw if you want to. My name's also Carl Jarl.
Carl Jarl.
So to add to the tongue twisterness of it all, so that's sort of fun. I don't really know what to do here. This game's
Looks
also
good.
rated because I thought it would be fun to add a little spice, but I'm not sure if that really has worked out. It will depend if I win or not. That then I'll then I'll let you know if I think it worked out.
Yeah. I think I need to get my bishop out on this diagonal in order to do something. I think I'm okay with that trade.
Okay. Okay.
Could I have taken it with the knight? Probably, but would that have been better?
I don't know.
Yeah, it turns out chess is hard.
Yeah, chess is really hard. Chess is a very hard game.
Now, if I take, what will you take with? You'll probably take with the knight. I don't like that. All right, we're attacking you. Do you feel attacked?
I feel a little bit scared. Um, hmm.
We go back?
I'm not exactly sure what to do. I'm trying to build pressure here. I'm trying to make him feel afraid. Is it going to work? I don't know. Probably
Yeah.
not, but it might work, and that's sort of the idea.
It gets the people going.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite aspect of this is that maybe you'll fall apart.
One of my card game friends always says, when a position is objectively lost in like whatever game, like League of Legends, Valorant,
Hmm.
a card game, it's just like, maybe they'll forget. Maybe
Right.
they won't do the thing that they need to do to win.
It's always possible. There's
Yeah.
it's always a distinct possibility. I actually don't like that I did that.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that.
I'm currently surprised by it. I'm surprised at myself.
Well, I'm going to continue attacking you.
I do feel attacked. So in that way, you have succeeded, sir. You could have taken my pawn also.
Which pawn? Oh, the
E-
e-pawn?
Yeah.
I thought about it.
That was a free pawn, sir. Doesn't
Well, I
take it.
mean,
Doesn't even want it. I'm beginning to be afraid of your attack.
I
Really?
I'm not sure whether or not I need this knight still, but if you take it, that's
I'm
fine.
not. You might need the rook though.
Oh, no, that piece is not important.
Okay.
Wait a sec. 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 Huh. Definitely was not even looking at that side of the board, I must admit.
Board vision. Every week. Every week it's a problem. Take your time though. I mean, I really want you to think about it.
Yeah,
It's a big
it,
decision. I don't really have a choice.
well, should be feeling a little bit less attacked than you were before.
I do. I feel a little bit more free. I think I'm snapping it up.
Was there a better move in the position for me? Maybe, but I wasn't gonna think about it. That's one of the things, right? Is like there's so much of chess, I feel, that you just kind of have to do and just be like, yeah, yeah, it's probably right.
Yeah, right. Was that the best? Who knows? But I hope so.
Is it good enough? Probably.
A lot of hoping goes on in this game. I also didn't realize I lost a piece earlier or something. I don't know what happened, but we're now
Couple
even
pawns.
material, and I thought
Yeah.
oh, okay. That's what happened. I lost some pawns. All right. Just trying not to blunder any tactics. Okay. I'm feeling much safer now. I'm not sure if that should be happening or not, but it is.
It is happening. That is for sure.
Josh Stephen thought potentially.
Actually.
I think we'll just reinforce. Down to a minute, basically on each side. Getting a little bit spicy, potentially. Okay.
Where does my knight go?
I don't know.
Probably more useful here, where it controls these squares.
Yeah, it was mate otherwise in the corner.
True.
If it went anywhere else, so I'm glad you settled on that square.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt right.
It was right for sure. So wise instincts, sir.
Can I queen trade here? Only 30 seconds.
Just need to be careful not to blunder anything too bad. I think I'll just take. Okay. I see you.
Hmm. This is this is a very bad position time wise.
It's not looking great.
It's not looking great at all.
Okay, you've got a lot of pawns though.
All
Good
right.
game,
Well.
good game.
Oh, I only had 4 blunders that game.
Darn. I had 4
Thank you,
mistakes,
computer.
apparently, according to
Yeah.
the computer.
But no, that was definitely a funny one. I don't know if we have time for a whole nother one, but
I think we probably don't, unfortunately.
yeah, that was definitely a fun one. Let's go back into the position then, Caddy, and so we can actually kind of look at
Yeah.
what I thought was probably the crucial spot, because I'm
Alright.
expecting that up until
I'm gonna pull it up in Lee Chess while you're chatting.
yeah,
Have it analyzed by an engine.
yeah. Okay, so let's see. So you taking with the bishop was yeah, computer was not happy about that one.
I don't know exactly what I had in mind. What move is that? Do you have that up?
That
Do you
is
have that available?
19.
Number 19. What was the
Yeah,
plan here? I don't.
I'm not really sure.
What am I supposed? How's the position before I take? It's still not great. All right.
It's about -1.5 or -1, minus
Okay.
half, -1, somewhere in there.
Got
Then
it.
afterwards it's about -3, and I think I am pretty solidly winning. I'm even ahead after the knight fork on move 22, where you attack
Really?
both these
Wow.
pieces. But it's about 1.5. Find the best
Uh,
move.
apparently Queen B8. 25 Queen B8 was not optimal. The
Oh,
computer wants Queen to D5 to pin the knight.
that
And
makes
and
sense. I
and I
believe
guess
it.
attack on A2 in the future. The king's sort of stuck.
Yeah.
And then yeah, many mistakes. Many mistakes were made on both sides of this
I
one.
mean, this was a very complicated game. I'm curious what they wanted after knight c6 because I kind of snap took because I didn't want to move my queen, but I guess I was supposed to. But the other thing that I was worried about was my e pawn in the position.
Got it. Queen B7
You wanted queen
to
queen b7?
attack the G2 pawn maybe.
Yeah, and also defend the e pawn.
Yeah.
Create pressure here. But yeah, so one of the big things that you'll kind of notice, right, is as Carl and I play, we've pushed this a lot. It starts off we try and get a lot of pieces active relatively early on. And so we
Mhm.
actually have not committed a whole lot of our pawns except a couple of them in the center. And then, we had a big trade of pawns, the gambit of a second pawn coming through, which ended up giving me a winning position. But unfortunately, chess isn't the kind of game where you can be like, haha, I'm winning. Call it here. We're done. You got to keep on going. But with
Yeah,
that,
absolutely. Go ahead.
but with that, we are going to be taking a short break, and we will be back in a few minutes as we move on to the central region here for Chess Tuesdays. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chess Tuesdays. I'm still Joshi. That's still Carl. I did point the correct direction. You just couldn't see it because it wasn't on camera. But we have another game coming up for you guys in the Central region as we are going to be having Oklahoma Virtual Charter Academy versus the Texas Online Preparatory School and a repeat viewing of Expert John, which was, I believe, one of the first players I actually had an opportunity to cast back in week 2.
I think that's true. Way back in the day, I don't remember the result, but I'm sure it was a thrilling game. I remember the first all
It
the
looked
games.
like he won,
I think he won.
honestly.
I think both these players are 3-1
Yeah.
at this point, and I do know that Expert John, his highest rating is 826, and his current rating is 248. So maybe had some rough games, but he is in the Crystal Division, and he's ranked 1 in the Crystal Division this week,
Wow.
which means he has been grinding in the last couple of days. So no, somebody not to sleep on at all.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those things where it's kind of impressive. Where on chess.com, where every week you get a certain number of points based on how many games you win and draw in bullet, blitz, and rapid, and then from there, if you just have the most points in a week, you can move up. Crystal Division is, I believe, the fourth highest division because it goes Legend, Elite, or maybe it's the
Champion.
third highest,
I'm
or
in
Legend,
Crystal. I'm in
Champion.
Crystal right now. I don't know. I can find
Okay,
out.
okay, okay. Yeah, I'm in whatever. I'm one below legend, so whatever that is. I think
It's
it's like
Legend,
elite
Champion,
champion.
Elite, Crystal, Silver, Bronze, Wood, Stone, Stonewood.
And
So
and while it doesn't tell you how strong a player is, it does give you a good idea of how much they play at the very least, right? Because
I think
if
it's a
you
great
assume,
format.
yeah, if you assume that most players will, win about 50% of their games and, lose about 50% of their games, then you will eventually get to a spot where, everybody can climb. And my biggest question I have, Carl, is at what point is everybody in Legend League?
I mean,
Because you
I've
can
actually
only
thought
go
about
up.
that. I've thought about that actually, right? But on the other hand, only one person every week from
True.
the division below gets in.
Yeah.
So it's a very slow trickle. I don't know how many leagues there are, but not a whole lot. I think it's actually very cool to
Yeah.
allow, essentially, give rewards for players that just play a lot, that try to improve, because I think it's, things like Titled Tuesday, the kind of weekly arena with prizes for titled players, is so out of reach, right, for almost every chess player. That having some stuff where you can win some cash prizes, play in some sort of elite tournament like that, but it's just for everybody that just plays a lot and loves the game. I think that's a great look. And
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing to do for the website. And I can say, Expert John, while we're on the topic, the last 5 weeks, he was third in his division, 41st in his division. He had no points. Maybe he's on vacation. And then second in his division, third in the division, and first last week. So he
Wow.
has been really climbing the division ranks
That's
in the last couple of weeks, dedicated to the improvement.
yeah. Now, what was the website you were using to try and get some insight onto the openings that
It's called
people are playing?
openingtree.com.
Openingtree.com. Great tool. I assume I've just never used it. But while we wait for Expert John and OSU user 727 to get into the games. Now, I'm assuming that Expert John's name is John. That seems like a reasonable assumption. But OSU user, I, I, I think this is pronounced Rock.
I thought his name was Eric. I may
Is
have.
it?
Well, we may
On
have some wrong.
chess.com, they list their name as WROC, but I'm getting confirmation from production that it is Eric. So we have Eric and John going to be playing up against each other, and we are just waiting for them to get into the game. But any interesting insights that we're getting from Opening Tree?
I don't know. Who are you looking up? I will do the other one.
I
But
will do Expert John.
all right, I'll do Osu. I don't know who. And Oklahoma has the white pieces, which is Osu. So Osu with white. Just do a quick search. You can hit continue and then analyze games, and it will start loading. And it looks like Eric has only played 96 games on chess.com with the white pieces, but he has played 96 instances of 1d4.
Oh, whereas Expert
So,
John is an E4 player exclusively,
okay,
right? Or an
got it.
E3 a couple times. But now we are going to be jumping into the game, and we are well into it. The
Wow.
Zilberman's Gambit.
I
Can't say I'm familiar with that one, but this is very similar to an England Gambit where you just play C4 afterwards, and now gambiting another pawn.
Okay. Fascinating. Honestly love the names of chess openings. I think
Yeah,
it's very fun. I think there's like there's a ton of interesting stories and like crazy ideas that
yeah.
come that you can kind of see through the names that I think is really cool.
I am waiting at some point for a move sequence to become called the Carlson, right? Because
It's got to be
that
right.
hasn't happened quite a bit. Now, computer really didn't like that move whatsoever.
I think that's why. Nope, it's not why. It's partially why, but it's not all of why.
Yeah, this pawn is now under attack twice. That is the wrong thing to do. So I
Oh
click
no.
off the page. But this does create a little bit of pressure here, if you were to go off to the side. But
Hmm.
you can already see that while we still have this knight not yet playing, we have a destroyed center structure. So we have a isolated pawn in the middle that is already being attacked and not particularly far pushed. And as the bishop falls, at least the pawn will get to rejoin the rest of its team, but we're still waiting on this knight to actually get out,
Oh,
and the fork coming in. You can threaten a queen trade.
it's also a mate threat. If you take the bishop on e2, it is mate into.
Oh,
Um, that's actually not true. Don't listen to me. But you can take this
I was
bishop.
convinced. I was looking for the
Um,
mate in two. I couldn't find it.
I said it with all sorts of confidence. I thought queen d7 was mate, but the knight just takes. So
Yeah,
um, that's sort of tough. But it is a very good position for white, whether or not your caster here can count. But sometimes we struggle with that. But very strong position here for the player with the white pieces, Eric, who is looking very strong, threatening to capture the rook in the corner here.
hmm Now, there is a little bit to be aware of as this rook does come down. There is, ideas over here, but it's definitely a spot where we are already in a position where you just have to be careful, as I was not careful enough, and with only a couple pieces left on the board, Expert John looks like they are going to be giving over this game relatively quickly, and this is one of the big reasons why we've been kind of talking about time and usage of it quite a bit in a lot of the games that we've been seeing, just because it's so important. It's a resource. You want to make sure you use
Yep.
your resources in time as well as on the board. And now with a knight and a queen to his name, Expert John is probably going to be giving this one up fairly quickly.
Yeah, it does not look like this one is John's game, but it is a best of three. Got chances to come back, possibly with the white pieces. Um, but this one is just looking to be sort of a dominating win by Eric thus far, who has played, I think, very well played many of the best moves, I would imagine. Um, John now sort of in the tank a little bit and
Quick
throws in the
resignation.
towel straight away.
Hard to blame him,
That's, yeah.
honestly. I can't say I'm familiar with the Zilberminsk gambit. I've seen
Yeah.
similar motifs. Oh, okay. So for Carl,
Tell us.
it actually started off as a Horwitz defense. This is actually my response, my
Oh,
chosen response to D4, because in general, the idea is you can get into a Nimzo Indian, which is very popular at the Grandmaster level. The idea here is that you cannot play E4, which is a common move that you want to play in these kinds of positions, because if you were to play it, you can just take it and it can't be taken back, right? But the Silberman's Gambit is the move that we actually played this game, which is E5.
oh, okay.
I
Delayed.
was wondering at the beginning, it's just like something felt wrong. It's like, where's Black's tempo? What did they do with their first move? And I guess this answers that question. But one of the big things that we saw was that there is not a whole lot of pressure. But let's make sure they are already into their second game,
Oh,
I think.
all right.
Hold on, maybe they just haven't.
Maybe we haven't.
Okay, they have not.
We haven't.
You have?
No, I think negative. I think we are
Negative.
negative on the game.
Oh, oh, we are into our second game.
Oh,
I
it's
have
a
it up here.
positive. All right,
We figured it out.
we've done it. We're into game two.
And it was a
John now
French
on the
defense.
white side. Yep, sorry. Was it French defense? John with the white pieces. Eric with the black pieces.
Yeah. This is actually very intimidating if you ever get rook e8 off without a block. But
True.
again, we're seeing lots of pawns. Charlie, Edward, and Franco already missing from the board.
Charlie Echo Foxtrot, if you want to
Yep.
go a little more jargony. Oh, discovered attacks.
Anywhere this bishop moves,
I think
this
you're losing
is
the queen.
check. Are they?
Bishop G4. Oh, maybe not. King F2. That looks scary. There's a. I need to stop calculating without
Problem
thinking,
is,
saying lines without thinking, because I keep
yeah,
messing it up.
I see what you're seeing, right? The fork coming in, but it is covered by this knight.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh, smart. Removing the defender. Maybe we'll see that theme later. Ooh, doesn't want the defender.
I mean, I honestly, it makes a lot of sense, right? But this is very close to checkmate because there's not a lot of squares for
Yep.
the king to go. It will have to kind of retreat into the corner, or maybe John is a little bit braver than I am and willing to come into the center of the board.
Indeed.
That can just be taken.
Yes. Yeah, take with the rook. I was going to say. I think that's a little bit more active. King G3. You have okay, just takes it, giving up the queen. As the computer already gives a prognosis of mate in 10.
Ooh, mine's saying mate in 9. So,
Oh, I guess you. I
oh,
think
apparently
you're.
that wasn't it though.
That was evidently not it, but we determined Josh's computer is a little bit stronger than mine. Here is his queen now just crushing in the position.
It's a very funny position. That cannot be taken. That can be.
Ooh,
Now, knight d2 is the only move that it probably isn't like mate.
immediately. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, two very fast games coming
Yes.
out from Eric so far. He pushes some of the pieces away. Still has the queen and an extra knight for a rook.
Takes the pawn, gobbling it up. I think very clean conversion we've seen thus far from Eric
Yeah.
in game number 1 and game number 2 up to this point. Has played some very clean chess and just sort of crushing. No mercy is sometimes what folks will say, as there's been pretty much no mercy in these games.
Now, I actually wonder if the best move. Oh, wait, no, you can't because you're in check. Haha. I just think you could pin the knight to the rook, and then like, nope, you're not allowed to do that. And very rapidly, my computer's saying mate in 8, but you have so many pawns, so many extra pieces. Like sacrificing the exchange is no big deal, especially because it comes back anyway. But how do we choose to close it out?
I think
I
you
I
just
probably
bring
just
the knight.
promote a pawn.
Okay. Oh, that works. You can actually pre-move that, but maybe bringing the knight in. There is check into the corner, and that should be mate. On the board, Eric, a dominating 2-0. Improved
Wow,
himself 4-1.
not even our fastest series we've had this entire time. It is 3:15 Pacific or 6:15 Eastern, which is
That's
what all
true.
the time zones that we're currently using because it is a East Coast
Very
based
fast
country.
series.
Anyway, that was 10 minutes of gameplay. Eric putting away John in
Wow.
crazy fashion. So,
Well played.
yeah, I'm not sure what more to say. it was just a
Yeah.
dominant display already coming out of Eric, and so very clearly attacking a lot of the weaknesses, recognizing blunders quickly, and yeah, that's a good idea, Caddy. We can go back. Now we did miss the beginning of the game a little bit, but it was a French defense, and there's a lot of lines that come out here. The most common one tends to be the immediate D4, and you'll often see things like the advanced French or the classical French, as it's called, two like main ways to kind of play this. But instead, we get the La Bardonnais.
Sure.
Yeah.
That sounds fine. I have no idea. I've never seen this before, but apparently it is a thing.
Wow. -7
On which move? Sorry. Oh, really?
on move 3.
That's -7. Really?
Has
Wow.
to be this, yeah? Yeah. And so suddenly you just get a bit of a collapse of the position. Even if you try and block, like if you try and block here, then
Just take
you're
any
able to
point,
come on over
and you're winning the rook.
and
It's actually very similar to a reverse wayward queen attack.
yeah,
Very, very similar.
it's actually the best move. And then rook over here in the corner is a lost.
Yeah, you also have
What's the best
bishop
move?
c5 there.
This, this, yeah, that's wild.
Probably
What
that.
a
You
wild
can.
game.
Wow,
Anyway, so
crazy.
that was our opening experiment. That's not what was play, but that was the best sequence. Instead, we get series of trades and en passant. There we go. So this is how we joined about here.
Yeah,
Right about
somewhere around
here.
there. Yep.
Yeah. So one of the big things that we often see in this, right? The things that you want to avoid in a chess position are, in general, if you can keep your bishops on, they will be better for you in the mid and late game than knights will most of the time. Um, so you will want to try and keep your bishops on. You want to keep your pawns connected with as few backwards pawns as possible. So, for as a quick example, as I make a couple of random moves, this is a backwards pawn, right? Where this one needs to be defended because it is holding its neighbors together. And then just having like long-term prospects for your pieces, right? These pieces will all take a move to even get into the game, whereas these
Yep.
are already a little bit more active. And we've already seen that John didn't look like they were comfortable going into the French defense immediately.
Yeah, indeed. Just not quite as familiar with the opening, um, and overall, just not quite ready for the game. I think
Yeah,
with the opening moves, just sort of getting a worse position out of the opening, and then once you're down by that much, once you're that far behind, it is hard to claw your way back in. Right, you sort of need help from your opponent, and Eric just didn't give him any at all.
yeah, yeah. Eric not willing to give a whole lot back there, and this is definitely one of the spots where you need to get this king out of the center of the board as quick as possible. As long as there are like, you know, pawns in the center, it's okay to keep the king in the middle for a little while, but now that this is an open file, I'm pretty sure the computer would say that, oh, not even that. What is the move that it wants here?
For white, or sorry,
Yeah, what does the computer want?
should be two.
No, that's -6.
Oh,
I mean that was my first thought too.
b3.
B3?
I don't know. I'm just trying to stop the bishop. That doesn't. Oh, that doesn't work at all. Just kidding.
My worry is about this discovered
You
attack.
get 95.
Hmm, better. I actually wonder if it's like knight C3 and just saying, yeah, I'm
Yep.
not castling.
Sure. You can block the check, and it's
Yeah,
defended.
you can block it, or you can just yeah. So if this goes like here, not even the best move, but the idea is just kind of
Got
block
it.
and then you can get out. But we can already kind of see the issues, right? By we've talked about this a lot. Making attacks before your feet are planted just makes it very difficult to do things. I think this is a very instructive move as well, right? Because we were talking about the idea of if you go for this move immediately, forking the king and the queen, this knight takes, and even though it's an equal trade, you'll notice that the eval has gone down a little bit from the -6 that it is here. But
Yep.
this, well, it's not the best move, it looks like there might have been something a little bit stronger. It does force the knight away from this square. So,
Got it. Yeah. Removing the defender,
yeah.
I believe is what that is. That's called in Puzzle World, which maybe we'll
Hmm.
get to in a little bit. Actually, some fun puzzle themes. But yeah, very instructive. You don't want to rush, right? You want to
Yeah.
just take your time, kick out the knight, and then you can go for the fork.
So, with that, I think we're going to take a short break here, Caddy. Then we'll be back in a few minutes where we will have our continuation. We are 3.5 between Carl and me at this point. And so I have a little bit more to see how that goes down. And then after that, we will have our break hour. We'll have a little bit of coaching. We're going to be taking you guys through puzzles and how to use them, and then how to try and recognize when you actually have a puzzle on the board as opposed to just doing puzzles. Because when you're given a puzzle and you know it's a puzzle, you always know that there is a tactic in the position, but it's sometimes difficult to identify when those tactics exist over the board. So with that, we will be back in a few minutes, and we will be back with another show match. Welcome back, everybody, to the Stride Esports League Chess Tuesdays, week number 5. We just finished up with the Central region after a dominating performance coming out from Eric over John. And because we have so much time, we're going to be jumping into a show match between Joshi and Carl. This time, we're going to be doing the 10-minute time format that we've been seeing from all of our players. And as I accept the challenge coming out, I'm going to start throwing Carl a curveball by playing my most played move.
Playing D4. I've prepared something fun for you today. I'm not. I'm not playing the
Ooh.
Grinfield. Oh, really? You're playing a Catalan, essentially? What are you doing?
I was hoping to get a King's Indian attack going.
Okay. I can't say I'm familiar. Have you? Did you? I prepared Queen's Gambit Declined against you because your opening tree. I did some
That is
research.
definitely my most played opening by a
I
large
did some
margin.
research. I was ready, but I guess not. Not today.
Yeah. My favorite variation is a Queen's Gambit accepted,
Yeah. Okay.
actually.
Maybe. I've never
But
gotten into the Queen's Gambit Decline. I know it has like. There's a lot of theory, right? Like
there's a
it's.
lot of theory.
Yeah, maybe too much theory for me. Also, it's a 10-minute game. I don't need to keep blitzing. All right, I can calm down.
Yeah, we do have a lot of time. So this just ended up transposing to positions I tend to play a lot anyway.
That concerns me.
But the thing is like this is kind of like what we were talking about before. There's a lot of lack of clarity in a lot of these positions just because there's so much stuff on the board.
Sure.
And in general,
I'm looking myself up on opening tree. I think I have a much worse score against D4 than I do E4. I'm gonna find out while I play. I'll
oh,
let it think about that one. Really, C3.
C3.
You gonna put the knight on D2?
I don't know. Haven't decided.
You're not putting it on C3.
Not yet.
True, fair enough. Oh, I get it. Maybe B4. All right.
It prevents D4 or B4. I say yes, B4.
I do. I have an 8% worse score against D4.
That's actually a lot.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes. It is. It's a lot worse. Yes. Yeah, I'm real bad. Real bad against it. I've never picked up it. Like I claim to play the Grinfeld, but I don't really play the Grinfeld.
Mhm.
And so I've never really picked up an opening for black like at
Yeah,
all. And so I sort of just like am a beginner making up moves, and that's not a great way to actually win games, it turns out.
it's out.
Gets in C4. All right. How do I feel about that? It's so luxurious. I have 10 minutes. I don't know. I can just sit
There's
here.
so much time to think about it. Right, and notice we are on move 10 currently. Well, I just played move 10. And Carl is already 2 minutes deep. Right? This was about
Or
as much time as John and Eric spent on their entire game. Right?
that's
Take
true.
your time. You have a lot of it, you know. Unless you have somewhere to be, in which case, go do that instead. But
I don't
there
really
was
want to take, but I don't really know what else to do.
you could push.
That seems really dangerous. Am I getting baited?
What? Well, now I'll go with plan A.
What's that plan A?
This was plan A.
Have I unleashed your trap card?
I don't know.
No one knows. Mysterious. Wait, this. How did I not see this? This seems like it would have been obvious at first glance. Team.
Really? Well, I will gladly accept your offering.
But you didn't win the pawn,
Didn't
so
win the pawn.
I guess we'll take that. You'll gladly accept my offering. You do have the bishop pair.
I do have the bishop pair. Bishops tend to be very strong in queen's pawn positions, like even more so than king's pawn positions, I
Really?
found.
Why?
Uh, because you tend to get very, very strong color complexes in queen's pawn
Okay.
positions.
Okay. Interesting.
And so it means that one of your bishops is going to be really good.
All right. Okay. That actually makes sense. I don't know what I'm gonna do about it, but I understand.
Yeah. Now, that might be because I'm not a grandmaster, but maybe I need more sonnets.
That's definitely not it. There's no way that that is the answer here.
What are you going to do about your pawn?
Be upset, maybe.
Charlie.
I'm not happy about it. I'll tell you that. I don't feel good about my position. Hmm,
I'm feeling pretty comfortable.
yeah, you would
That
be.
tends to be how it goes. It do be what it do. It dooby dooby doo.
Only used 2 minutes so far on the clock. I just should you should be commended. Cooking. Also, this happens a lot. The person sort of under pressure or like not as familiar with the opening will often end up sort of significantly down on the clock.
Hmm.
Okay. I didn't find that to be that scary.
I'm still planting my feet.
Okay, good. My light square bishop is awful.
For now. It can't activate still.
The
When you
deep
first move
sigh.
your queen, I just immediately look to see. So this is actually instructive for people. Oh, as Caddy, I don't know if your stream is actually showing any gameplay. There it goes. But
Right. Go ahead.
one of the things that you always have to do when you're playing is like, oh, the queen moved. What was it protecting? Was protecting this bishop. Can I take it? No, it's still protected by the knight. But you do have to make that first question is like, can I take it? Interesting. Well,
I'm trying. Yeah, get out of here. Go away.
it's sticking around. So you see, like, for everybody who is watching, I suddenly have all these open diagonals that I can play with over here that are all pointing towards his king. They're not directly attacking yet, but the ideas are there.
The ideas certainly are there, which concerns me. I have already used more than half my time on
I'm going to ask your
16.
knight to return very soon.
Huh. Yeah, you probably are, aren't you? Just work. I need some sort of
Hero.
general course against 1d4. I can't do it.
Yeah, now my bishop is back. It did like that square.
You gotta speed up a little bit. This is a good way to blunder like all your pieces, I think. Usually. Just to like not think very much.
Mm.
It usually works. It's pretty effective.
Now I can't go to c3 with my queen because that blunders a royal fork.
I'm upset you noticed that, but I also wasn't really holding my breath, so I'm not really that upset.
Hmm.
I didn't know what I was doing with that exchange, but I didn't really want to lose it.
Yeah.
I don't feel as terrible about this position as I used to, but I still don't feel very good about it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, I just don't have a lot of plans. I'm very stuck. Not a bad thought. Not a bad thought.
Well, kind of have to do this one. Only legal move, in fact.
All right. What's the next step here? Cry? Resign? Both tempting options, to be honest.
There's no way this position is resignable.
No. Definitely not. I will not be resigning.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. In a few moves, maybe. But for now, no. I don't really know what's going on, to be honest with you.
I have ideas.
I like to think that I've defended reasonably well, but not super well. That's sort of what I'm going with right now.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel okay about it, but like not really that good. That was unfortunate.
okay.
You are up in exchange.
I am up in exchange, but you have this attack building, and
I have
it's
this like,
making me
weird
unhappy.
night, sort of just chilling.
Yeah, and
Almost by accident, actually. It was like not super deliberate, right?
mhm.
But
You're just hunting to see if I would make any mistakes.
yeah, I
I
mean,
thought about it. Oh, that's a mistake. Or is it?
or is it? Yeah, that's the real question. Kind of? No, it's not really.
It's not, because
I'm
even
gonna
if you,
argue that that's a
yeah,
little bit lucky, but
yeah, yeah. Knight d3 is followed by the fork. Can I can I grab this G pawn? Is that too dangerous?
I also only have 2 minutes, which is concerning me.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna reintroduce the pin and go from there.
Hmm. What's it do? What's it do?
Okay, now I can create a passed pawn on the A file if
That's
I
true.
want to. But then my queen is far away from the defense of my king. Is that okay? Right? So for anybody who's missing it, right? If I take this pawn, then this pawn doesn't have any pawns on either of these files. So in theory, I can get it to just go. I don't like this pressure. I think it's too dangerous. Yeah, it's definitely too dangerous.
I think it is too. I think I don't. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm sure a computer might just be like obviously the best move, but computers are sort of annoying like that.
yeah.
But what to do instead?
Yeah, that's the tough part.
Okay.
I ate up a ton of time just trying to figure out what to do.
Trying to find out exactly what the right
Yeah.
sequence here is. Yeah, I don't blame you.
I guarantee the computer says I'm better,
Oh yeah, I'm sure you're crushing.
but
I bet this position is plus 6.5.
I bet it's probably like +3.
All right.
Okay, now I think I can take. No, can't. Let's do this first. I think I have to take you to an end game here, Carl. I'm not sure the way forward otherwise.
I'm not super sure the way forward either. So
I wanna.
yeah, maybe not +6. Although computers are brutal
Computers
sometimes.
are brutal. Sometimes
Yes.
there's just tactics that you're just like, I guess, I
Right.
guess I'm
Okay.
supposed to sacrifice my queen here. My bad.
They actually are like that though.
I know it's awful.
I feel as though I have a very tenuous grasp on this position.
I just have to be really careful because knights, as like time gets lower, like
Right, knights
it's
are
easier
tricky.
to spot the fork than it for the attacker than it is for the defender.
Yes. I also think my knight's actually reasonably strong here.
Yeah.
Gotta speed up just a bit though, I think. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I can finally take the pawn, I think. Excuse me, sir.
Oh, that doesn't work. That game ended quickly. I said it felt tenuous. This computer gives minus a couple. GG.
That was a fun one. That
That
was
was
a
fun.
yeah. So what was it throughout most of this? I was expecting it was like somewhere between like -2 and -3
Let's
for a
take a
good chunk
look.
of it.
Let's take a look. The computer is now chewing on it. We'll take a sec. I can also start sharing.
Yeah, sure, if you'd like to.
So we can swap for the coaching here.
Yeah. But there you go. A little bit of an idea of you know, we used our time. We used most of our time until you know, Carl maybe needed to take an extra second or two on his last moves, but
No, yeah. Oh wow,
other than that,
you were only +1, right
oh
before the
really?
blunder, right before the big blunder when you played
Oh.
Queen E1 to attack the pawn. It was +1.
Oh, interesting.
I could have pushed the
Yeah.
pawn. That did not occur to me the entire time. You can just play A4, and the position apparently is just held together by the knight. I'm now streaming. I don't know if you can see,
Oh
but
yeah, if Caddy could pull
uh,
up Carl's stream,
yeah, I don't know how easy
that'd be
that
great.
swap is here, but
Wait, so how long did it want me to just play A4? Because I never thought about
oh
it.
no, it wanted me to play A4
Oh,
when
okay,
you were attacking
okay.
the pawn, and I can play A4, and the queen and the knight defend everything. And it's
Yeah.
like I think it's like a semi. It might be like a +1 draw or a +1 you're gonna lose. I can't tell.
Yeah, it's
Um,
always hard to tell, right?
there are
Computers
also
are scumbags. We hate computers.
I was also winning at 2 moments.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if you still have if you have the game up, but on moves 27 and 28. That's not true. Yeah, 27 and 28.
27
I
and
had knight takes tactics. A couple of
oh,
moves in a row on um basically I could attack the king. The pin,
interesting.
the pawn of the king. But
Yeah.
it didn't even occur to me. Chess is hard.
I definitely thought at one point, right? That's why I didn't take. So on move like 29,
Yeah.
when I was contemplating like, can I take this pawn? Let's actually, I'm curious what the computer says. The computer says that is suddenly a draw, and is it because knight takes? It is not because knight takes. Oh no, that doesn't work.
Almost everything's a draw here.
Oh, right, right. Okay, okay.
Yeah, we are just a draw. Can we go? We can probably F11. That might help. There we go.
There we go.
There
What
we
was our Centipon score? I'm
Yeah,
curious.
not great. I was
Eh,
116 last. You were 90 last. So
it's okay.
I've played. I've
That's
played.
about
I've
it.
played better games. I
I've
think.
played better games.
Um,
One of the funniest things I had a while back was I played a game where my opponent made 11 blunders
uh-huh.
in 25 moves, and I played that game at like 96% accuracy or something.
Sure.
And afterwards, they sent me a DM on chess.com saying cheater, and I'm like, I took your blundered pieces, my bad. Like, what do you want
Got it.
from me? But
Got it.
it's it's always very funny. Oh, we also have a little bit of time. I can tell everybody how I got kicked out of the chess club when I was in middle school.
Got it. Go ahead. Tell us a story. Then we're
Yeah,
gonna take a short break, and then we'll be back with some coaching. I think
yeah. So
that's good. Go ahead.
proud of you for everybody who is still in your high school chess club because I was not all. My high school didn't have a chess club that I knew of, and I was definitely one of the people in high school that if we had a chess club, I would have known about it, right?
Sure.
But the important thing to remember is that in middle school, I had my best friend. He was a French horn player named Tim, and every single day he would ride his unicycle to school. Okay,
Okay.
and he would be reading a book while he did it every single day. And so, uh, when we started going to the chess club, whenever he and I got together, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience that can relate to this, we were both very good students, but we became total idiots whenever you put us in the same room. And so uh whenever we were playing, one of us we would start it off, in a chess club, it tends to be a little bit quiet. We would start off and somebody would eventually make a blunder, right? Because we were just playing and eventually sometimes that happens. And so whenever somebody would blunder, we would go we would take the piece, and if it was a bishop, we'd go bishop, and we start giggling. And then because we're not paying as much attention, somebody would blunder a knight, and the way that knight is written out, you'd be like, Knigget as a Monty Python reference a little bit as well, and it would just go downhill from there, and we would giggle so much that we annoyed the teachers, and they're like, "You guys need to quiet down, or you need to leave." And we could not quiet down, so we still played chess every day after school. We just didn't do it with the chess club.
Got kicked out. That's tough. That's tough. Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah, it was
That's
funny.
gotta hurt, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it
That's a
is
good
what it
story.
is. But yeah, do you have any stories of being a bad chess kid?
Not really. I was pretty well behaved, I think.
All
Not,
right.
not to flex here. I think I do anything weird. I once discovered that this isn't really a funny story, but it is a story. I was at chess camp. We had these like chess camps every summer.
Hell yeah.
Um, I discovered, I think like on year two, that there was like more than one section. I
Ooh,
was like very young, right? I was like maybe like 7 or 8, right?
sure.
And I like discovered that there was like a better section of like where the like the good players were, and so I like had to play one of them, and I got like crushed, and I was like really embarrassed, and I was like, "What happened?" Like I thought I was kind of good at this game, and they were like, "Oh yeah, he's like 1900," and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, like I didn't know those. I didn't know those people came to this chess camp, but I thought we were all beginners here, folks."
no, nope,
We
nope.
weren't. Yeah, I discovered there. I was in like the beginner section, and it turned out there
Yeah.
was whole classrooms of people that were better than me, and that was sort of a sad experience.
That's definitely kind of like an eye-opening experience for kids a lot of the time, right? Where you're playing whatever game. Like I'm also a big Super Smash Brothers player, right?
Okay,
And I got to see lots of. It was mostly like teenagers or kids who would come out, or sometimes they would be adults, but they would come out and they would play their first real game against like somebody who had like actually been studying the game
sure.
and like working on it, and they would get destroyed. And that's one of like the big moments that a lot of people have in any competitive career is you either go like, "Oh man, that guy is good. I want to beat him," or nah, these guys are too good. They just leave,
Yeah,
right?
I'm
There's,
out.
there's not a lot of in between, but it's always fun to find the people who are just like, oh, that guy's good. I'm gonna, I'm going to try and beat him. And I had a situation where the first event that I ever went to for Smash, I just sat down and started playing some games with people who were sitting there,
Mhm.
and I didn't know this at the time. Um, and they absolutely trounced me. Like it was not close at all. And I thought, oh my God, this is what the average player is like. Because statistically, you sit down with somebody, and they're probably going to be about the average.
Right.
Turns out it was the number 49 in the world. So
Oh.
made me feel a little bit better after that. But with that, we are going to take a short break while we wait. And when we come back, Carl will be leading the discussion on how to use puzzles and do some different puzzles and different ways that we can get better at chess over the course of the day. But we are going to get going to a short break. And when we get back, we'll see you with a bunch of puzzles.
Welcome back, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, to some coaching with me. I'm still your Carl, joined still by Mr. Josh.
That's
Gonna
me.
do some puzzles. He's here. We're on to Lee Chess. We've swapped websites, so we're just gonna kind of go through the puzzle tab on the website in case anybody's sort of new. I think lead chess is a little bit less common, a little bit less well known. We'll go through sort of how it works, generally how to do a puzzle, what the use of the puzzle is, general puzzle information.
Yeah.
Um, Puzzles, I think, are like the bane of every like 8-year-old's existence. There's like sheets and sheets of puzzles. At least I remember that when back when we did things on paper. Here, do these puzzles. There's like 800 of them, and they're all mates in one. I'm like, why are we doing this? But they actually are useful. So we'll just sort of, I guess, I'll quickly go over how Lichess works.
Yeah.
Lichess.org is the companion website, I guess, to chess.com.
They are
The other
technically competitors.
that is, I guess they're not
Yeah.
companions; they're competitors. But the other big chess website, I think we can say Chess24
Yeah.
also exists, but not really. Um, so Lichess is kind of deal. It's a French website. It's a nonprofit. It's sort of like open source. Everything's free. There's no premium, and that means you get pretty much everything for free. So you can get unlimited puzzles.
Yeah.
So
The
if you
one
come, go ahead.
the one thing I would be careful of, a lot of people will play on Lichess and they will hit a certain rating and they will be like, weird, I am 2000 on Lichess, but I am only 1600 on chess.com. And that's because like the rating system is different.
Yes,
Do be careful with how you actually use it. They are not the same. So expect that in general, your Lichess rating will be about 300 points higher than your chess.com rating.
that's true. It is a little bit higher. You basically, and Lichess, everyone starts at 1500, and on chess.com, for the most part, people start at like 1200.
Yeah.
So that sort of accounts for that. The rating systems are a little bit different, different versions of Glicko, but I don't think we need to get into that today.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
anyway, so
puzzles.
your rating will be a little bit higher, for the most part. So if you have an account, it will sort of keep track for you better. If you don't, you can still just click on puzzles, and it will take you to puzzles, and it will just sort of start giving them to you. You will have a rating, and the puzzles have a rating. And so if we do the puzzle, it will tell us what the rating is. We will gain points if we get it correct. We will lose points if we get it wrong. Basically, you want to just play the best move. Almost all puzzles, I think basically all puzzles, have a single best move um, in the position that you play through. And then sometimes it's one move, sometimes it's 5 moves, whatever. If you get them all right, the rating goes up. If you get them wrong, sadly, the rating goes down, and the puzzles get easier. You can also sort of adjust if you want them to be easy or harder. So it'll sort of, if I click normal, I'll get around a 1900 rated puzzle. If I click hardest, I'll get like a 2500 rated puzzle, which is much harder. So we can go ahead and just, I guess, work through this one if you want,
Sure.
Josh. So you sort of have to take in the position. Obviously, they're very different. If I go back to the last puzzle that I got wrong, the position is totally different. So each time it's sort of new,
Yeah.
and you're just sort of looking for something in the position.
You want to talk about the checklist
The what,
for
sorry?
how to? Do you want to talk about the checklist for how to look for moves?
Checks, captures, and attacks. Is that the checklist we're looking?
Yeah.
All right. I figured it would be awkward if I started explaining the wrong list. Um, you're supposed to do this like sort of in your normal games when you have enough time, but especially in puzzles, your first kind of candidate moves you're considering, are checks, captures, and attacks. So that's something like I have a check, I can put the knight there, or I have a check, I can put the queen up. Those are pretty much my only checks. So checks are usually good because they're forcing, because your opponent has a limited number of responses. For example, if I play knight check, I can either expect my piece will be captured or the king will step forward. Those are the only two things that can happen. If I put the knight there, this square is covered. Doesn't have a lot of choice. If I go here, pretty similar, takes, or steps forward. Other things include captures. I'm just going to take the queen, or I'm going to take this bishop. These are also relatively forcing because if your opponent doesn't take you back, you just want a piece. And if they do take you back, that's pretty much forced, right? So if I take this queen, I guarantee you that the bishop will capture the queen back. So then it's essentially kind of its own puzzle from that point forward, going, okay, the bishop is here, these queens are gone, what might be the best move then? And then finally, we have attacks, something like bishop to d5 here, attacking this rook. And the solution might be, oh, the rook actually can't move. Now here the rook can move, but imagine for a moment that the rook could not move. That might be the solution. So those are sort of the starting point of things to look for um, in a position is checks, captures, and attacks because they are generally the way to the solution.
Yeah. And you also want to be using, as we kind of touched on, the exact same checklist in your actual games, right? Because you will find tactics and basically puzzle solutions in your real games that you would have otherwise missed if you didn't look for them. Um, and so with that in mind, one of the big things that I kind of want to look at today is how can you tell that something is a puzzle, like when you're looking at it over the board, right? And why do we recommend using as much of the time as possible? And it's because it's really hard to tell a lot of the times whether or not something is going to be hard winning or not, right? Like one of the moves that I saw, I see this puzzle, and the very first things that came to mind were, after looking at the checks, like queen up, knight to g3 was the white bishop taking on f3, right? We have these pieces attacking. Can we win material this way,
Sure.
right? Just because after bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes with check, doesn't look like anything immediately comes out of it, but that's one of the things that you always have to look for is like, is there a way to just win this on the spot?
Right. I'm actually not. Is that wrong? We have takes, check, step. I was thinking we had rookie 2, but we don't because the bishop's in the way. This kind of idea, where and
Yeah,
if you're in a game like this, calculating, especially if you're playing a 30-minute game, a 90-minute game, if you realize, just for example, say this bishop's not here, for instance, we can play takes. Um, we're modifying this to work, but takes. Oh, that's check. They step forward, and then this is checkmate or something. And you sort of can give yourself a head start if you just sort of start with the capture, because instead of having to calculate, oh, I think it's checkmate, takes here, here, there, whatever, you
yeah,
sort of can start at take. Okay, I'll take back. Oh, that's check. Oh, they only have to go here. Wait, I have a checkmate, right? I can take or something. And so
yeah,
you sort of, I think you give yourself sort of a boost in your calculation if you kind of give yourself the checks and the captures at the start. You might realize, wait, that's actually good, where you wouldn't have seen it without kind of going through that motion.
yeah. I'm actually unsure what the solution is to this puzzle because it's definitely not bishop takes. Because after bishop takes, queen takes your queen,
Yeah.
right? And suddenly you're sacrificing material for nothing. But this is actually kind of a tough one.
Yeah, I'm likewise struggling. We've been vamping. We're trying to figure it out slowly while we talk, I think.
Yeah, we
Um,
said things I wanted to say, but it has to be queen e1, I think.
Queen one, rook takes,
Rook
rook
takes.
takes.
Oh shit. Oh, sorry. My
There's
bad.
just nothing. There's
This
nothing
way.
here. Oh,
Yeah.
check, back up and win the queen.
Why doesn't the
Should
Oh,
be-
with the bishop?
So if I play queen, rook takes, there, check, only move back, queen there, take the queen.
That would be a very long sequence for a puzzle. Hold on.
It
Okay,
would.
so
Does it
is
work?
that all forcing? Is that all with check? Hold on. Check,
Take.
takes, check,
You can take with
move.
the queen though, and that's just a trade.
Then it's just a trade.
Can I
Hold
play
on, hold
d?
on. It's knight g3, I think. No, wait. So the idea that I was looking for is
Yep.
to remove the defender, right? Because you know, if knight moves there and bishop takes, then you just take the queen instantly,
Oh, true.
right? But after knight g2, king h2, my next thought was bishop g1, but then rook takes.
Oh, okay.
And unfortunately, that means it doesn't work. My thought after that could be knight f1, but then rook takes that as well, and you're down two pieces for a rook, and that also doesn't work.
Right. This is a tough puzzle. Also, this rook defends the bishop, so you
Yeah.
can't just you just take and take. I mean,
Now we
this
had not
feels
planned this.
yeah, we were not ready for this. Oh, I don't think this works. And this is sort of how you go through these checklists. And this is
Yeah.
also why you can, I remember thinking, how do you spend 90 minutes on a game? Maybe you
This.
get because these are all positions from real games. This is from a 10-0 rapid game between two 1670s.
Yeah.
Right? So you get to this position, what do you do? And maybe if I'm playing a bullet game, I just take the queen.
Yeah.
Maybe, right? For example. But instead, if I have, 45 minutes on the clock, if I sense that maybe there's something here, right? This kind of position looks like it could be ripe for puzzling. Maybe I spend 20 minutes sitting here, kind of like Josh and I are doing right now, and thinking it over. If you take this, the queen has to take.
Yeah.
Because if the rook takes, you just take the queen. I don't
But
know
then
if
what's
that.
the continuation, right? So if
Check.
knight takes f4, queen takes, uh, queen, queen e1, rook takes, rook takes.
Whoops, I got the colors wrong, but
Yeah.
there. Got nothing.
And then you're stuck.
There's something here. I mean, obviously there is a correct answer. I always feel like sometimes they don't have correct answers, but that's not how this works.
Yeah.
um,
Okay. Next thing I'm thinking is queen takes queen.
Bishop takes. What do I have? Like rook here?
Maybe?
Is that the answer? I just got so excited because this square is covered. You can't go here. If you go back, I just check and I'm winning.
Yeah.
If you go back here, I can take you. If you go here, I take. And if you go this way, the same idea works. I think you're removing the defender of this square.
Yeah, I can't think of anything better.
Takes. Rook here. And the bishop is stuck. Because I'm threatening. There.
Mm-hmm. Let's try it.
No.
No. Back to square. Okay, try. Since we already got it wrong, try queen e1.
Yep.
No. At this point, we don't know the answer. Somebody in chat might know.
Does anyone know? That is the right move. All right, so now I like to play along, like going one at a time, right? So now it's given us the first move.
Now we know the correct answer is queen takes queen. But I don't know why that was the move.
Oh.
Right? Like,
why?
To me...
We calculated just steps up, and we don't care.
Yeah. This is what we were worried about. Knight f1 check. Oh, and then mate is unstoppable after rook takes, queen takes on g1.
And you have to give up the queen.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a very tough puzzle to start with.
That was too strong. That's a little too strong for us.
Yeah. But if you
That's a good
look
puzzle,
up in the top right, like you can see the evaluation, knight takes g3 is the only move that's winning.
Yeah.
Right?
What did we try? We tried this.
That was
This
our
is
first move.
Better for white.
Yeah.
Because what did we thought? We thought
Our next move was rook e2.
Oh, you just go back. Oh, it's defended.
Yeah.
Wait, I forgot. All right, that was tough.
That was a tough one.
You can also.
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead. We went through the checklist, and so we didn't quite find it, but it's because we didn't quite calculate far enough. But because we did the checklist, it was okay. We saw that the second best move was knight just takes the bishop right away. Anyway.
Yeah.
Themes.
Yeah. I think, really here, what did we do wrong? Okay, we calculated this, and we thought they could just step up.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we missed really was that this is just crushing.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that move. I didn't think about it hard enough was the biggest thing.
Yeah, why can't you just go up? Oh, you take the queen.
Yeah.
All right. Got it. Okay.
That's wild. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's how you do it. And if you calculate that's where being able to calculate farther ahead is an advantage, right? Because in an
Yeah.
actual game, maybe we don't get crushed immediately with what we played, but we're definitely not winning. Whereas, like what we found, a lot of the times puzzles are pretty much just winning on the spot. Like that puzzle, you're winning a queen
Yeah.
for a piece.
The game's not
Um,
over, but hopefully with the extra queen, you guys should be able to win the game.
yeah, that's if you can get yourself up a queen, that should be good. Um, but anyway, if you're on the normal puzzles page and you click on themes, you can see if you have an account, you can kind of go see your puzzle dashboard, see your performance, what percent of them you solve. I'm not very good at I get impatient. Sort of improvement areas. Okay, so I'm really bad at endgame tactics apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Strengths.
You're not strong at anything. Sucks to suck, Carl.
There we go. I haven't done puzzles in a long time. So apparently my opening tactics are great. So you can kind of go see what you're good at or your puzzle history. We're sort of struggling today. And then also if you have any games that they've pulled puzzles from, they will show you.
Wait,
Which
look
is
me up real quick. Joshi Cast. I'm curious. Yeah, that.
oh,
Wow, there are 10
all right,
puzzles
all
from
right.
my
We're
games.
doing it. Here we go.
Oh no, we're going
This
through
is from
my
your
games.
game. You were playing with the white pieces. I don't know if you found it or not. We can probably find out actually. I
That's a good
actually know we
question.
can. So
This
white
is
to
interesting.
yeah, white to play and win.
Okay, so again, from the checklist, first thing you should look at is what checks do you have in the position. Only real one, or okay, let's not discount sacrificing the knight, right? Because it's a check, but then we look, and then pawn takes, and we don't have anything further off that. We don't have any further checks from that position, but you do need
Yep.
to ask that question first. So with that, the next thing we're looking at is 97 checks forces the king back. And then you can rook takes. Oh, that looks like it.
Oops.
Wait, hold on. After that, king moves over, knight takes, you're up in exchange. And then you can follow it up with rook takes on f7.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe you even can take with the bishop. Here, 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 and then takes. I don't know if it works,
Um
but you're definitely winning in
no, because
exchange.
after rook takes, king takes.
Oh, and the knight's going too. All right, yeah.
Yeah.
But this looks good. I think it's also rated like 2300, so I'm surprised almost. Is this the
Yeah.
answer? It looks like
That
we're just winning in exchange.
I think it's winning in exchange. That's my guess.
Because also to illustrate, although you can just take.
But then
So that covers.
oh, true.
Wait, hold on. Oh, we got lucky. Sorry about the vacuum in the background. If you can hear the vacuum. Is it a smothered mate? Like, can I just take?
I think I think you just take on
Or do
take
I
the
take
pawn.
here? I'm threatening mate, and you have to take. So if I take
Ooh, hold
here,
on.
I'm threatening mate in one.
Let's see. So you're threatening mate in one. You have to take. So you win a pawn in an exchange. But then what happens after their light square bishop moves?
True.
So if
Bishop takes. Rook
bishop
takes.
takes, rook takes, rook takes. I'm not sure I see the continuation. I'm thinking rook takes first. Rook takes, but then nothing is forced. But you are threatening to, but then you re-establish the original threat.
Other pieces. I just feel like what do you? So if you take with the bishop, you just win in exchange, right?
Yeah,
And that's good usually.
that is good. But
Is it
is that
best?
good enough, right? That's the tough question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chess is hard.
This is very hard.
We got the first move right, but this doesn't even guarantee success, right? Like we're still.
Yeah.
I don't really see anything better than takes.
Okay. Then
I
takes.
just take now. Like I think that's okay. That was
Okay.
it.
That's
Did
it.
you find it? We can find
Probably
out.
not.
Oh, I don't know if we found it. We can't tell. All right.
I have no idea.
No one
I
knows.
I guarantee you I didn't.
All right. That one's pretty tough. You also, if you just to kind of show, they get very crazy.
Oh
I'm not even
god.
gonna try to solve it. I'm not gonna lose any
That
points
is a
for it.
wild position.
Right. So like, there's a lot happening here. Where like we have takes, we have takes, we have takes, we have takes even maybe. Ignoring over there. We trap the queen. Random items like that. Which like okay, that's actually correct. All right, now I want to try. Think of the
Take
points.
queen. Take queen.
What was that? It?
Queen takes queen.
And now even in this position, usually one move is much better.
King h1. You have no. The only block is with your queen. So you have to move.
Am I worried about this? About tagging this? Whereas if I go here, but I can just check. Then maybe I step up. Is that different? I'm just worried if I go to H1 about that. And I'm
Alright,
worried I'm
try
getting
h2.
crushed.
Alright, you're right.
I got 26 points. For context, if I go here, oh, it's a draw. Of course it's a draw. But not because of this. But because I can go here, apparently.
Chess sucks.
Yeah, all right.
Chess is so hard, you guys.
Welcome to chess. All right. Anyway, I keep meaning to talk about themes. So you can go in here and you can sort of just pick what you want to do. So you can pick by game opening. So say I'm, really learning the Smith-Morra Gambit Accepted. And these will all be games that come out of the Morra Accepted. So it's basically sort of tactics that you might run into on a normal day. I feel like, can I just take the knight? That sort of seems like the first thing that's jumping out to me. This also takes on G6, G7. Well, this is a hard puzzle too. Oops, I forgot to turn the difficulty down.
Yeah. Taking on G7 is...
Oh.
Oh.
Will it give me the same puzzle? No, it's gone forever.
No.
All right. Well, never mind.
Fine.
Sorry, Josh. Anyway, so you can also pick by theme, and I think these are sort of useful if you are, really trying to find forks. You can just sort of do this, and a lot of these are not very hard. It'll just kind of be like this. Sort of worried about that, but just take. That's not the move. All right. I'm not really. This is what happens when you try to go too fast. Answer.
Wait, sorry. I just kind of assumed you got... I just assumed it was like, takes rook.
It evidently is not.
That's wild.
Take? What? Yep, my bad. Whoopsie.
Yeah, suck.
Yeah, let's go back to normal puzzles. And obviously, if you are a lower puzzle rating, it will give you easier puzzles.
Yeah.
So this is sort of, that's not the right move. That's the right answer. There we go. Sure. Anyway, you can do things like this. And then also motifs, skewers, trapped pieces, sacrifices, deflect, like all of these things, and they'll sort of explain what they mean too. I think these are easy. They're not easy, but they're fun to do when you're sort of learning. Let's play Find the Mate in 1. Yay!
Yeah.
But these are very useful just so you sort of see in your games where the mates are. I'm sure if I try to do these too quickly, I will miss one. But then obviously they also have things, maybe a more intermediate player like Josh or I, maybe finding these like mate in 4s, where it's like a little bit more difficult. And these are actually reasonably hard. We would get some of these wrong.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, man. Do you want to do it?
Sure. Let's do this one.
Okay.
And see how long it takes.
The same
rules
is a lot
apply.
of moves. Yeah.
Yeah, same rules apply. every time. That sort of screams out as the obvious first move.
Yeah. Because one of the big things they also are looking for in, or at least that you should definitely be looking for in these puzzles is if I don't make a move now with check, do I lose?
Yep.
And the answer is not you don't lose immediately, but it becomes very unpleasant, right? Because while their rook to e2 does give you a check, right now your queen can take it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is looking like a puzzle where, especially if we make the move that Carl is looking at, any move we make that's not with check will lose us the game.
Yep. Boom.
Yeah.
And I'm getting hunted. I
So
think
that
this
that
might
lets
be.
us know that everything we do, if we make that move, has to be with check or the game or we lose. And so I'm pretty confident that looking at it, F7 just looks really good, but Carl's the one who's actually been doing some of the calculating.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's here. If you go here, it's mate. So that's out.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I think there. Check. You can block with something. I go here. You block something again, and I take.
How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
That's what I thought was gonna happen. Check.
Mm-hmm.
Then here, only move is to block. Oh, I take it. Yay!
There you go.
You did it. So that's sort of how you do that. And also, by the way, this was from a 2-1 bullet game.
Yeah.
So I hope you had, this person probably had. Oh, I think this is how I can find the game. I could have found your game.
Uh,
But we actually
and
burned
they
it.
did not find it.
Yeah, they did not see it. We're gonna go see it because we're here. I just want to know. What did you
Oh,
play?
there's no way.
What did you
I
play?
probably took like the bishop.
Why
Something.
can't
I
I do
think
that?
I
Do I have to do the puzzle? Do I remember the puzzle? It's takes, right?
it takes two.
Cool. There we go. You played. Oh. Oh. Engine Precision from Joshua Joshi Howard. You did find it.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I did find it, but they didn't respond with engine precision, so I played a different line.
No. You got
Yeah.
this. I mean, you found the winning move though for the puzzle. This is the
Yeah.
end of the puzzle, and then they just didn't take. But
This was a year ago. Okay.
wow,
I feel a little bit better about
1900.
not remembering it.
That's quality.
Yeah.
2000 rapid. You're like exactly opposite me. We can go look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not 2000 bullet anymore. Darn it.
Yeah.
All
For
I
what
could
it's for what it's worth, Carl is way better at faster time controls than I am, but I am of the opinion that if we were to play classical, I'm pretty sure I would probably be winning, but if we play bullet, I'd probably have like a 10% win rate.
I would go maybe 6.5, 3.5 in
Yeah.
classical, maybe 7.3, somewhere around there. I don't know. I think in like rapid games, I think you're around probably 7.5, like 10-0.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
I'm trying to get better at it, but it's so hard.
so with puzzles, let's do a couple more, I think, and
Let me-
then kind of use the checklist.
Elichess is upset with me. Hold on.
Oh,
Let me in.
why is there a musket? That's so random.
The puzzle's down. Hello. I can play Puzzle Streak. Can I go to my dashboard? Puzzles. Are puzzles
Weird.
just down? Okay, we've done this. Healthy mix. Open it. Is the healthy mix down? All right, pick your favorite topic.
All right. I think something that could be really useful for the audience is openings, because we have been seeing a lot of blunders early on in the game. This one seems pretty straightforward to me. But let's do the checklist real quick. Are there any checks? Bishop can take. Does that do anything for us? King takes. Actually, there might be a Greek gift style thing here.
Yeah, there's no knight here, but this is actually pretty close to working right there.
Yeah.
How do you stop it? I guess you just go back and I have no follow up.
Yeah. But that's the first thing to do, right? Is you ask, does this work? The answer appears to be no.
You also might hear us muttering that while we're playing when we do our show matches.
Yeah, does this work?
Does this work? No, it doesn't. All right, and that's what we're doing is we're kind of going through that checklist sort of without thinking about it because we've done it so much.
Yeah,
But it's something like this position. Hey, does this work? No, it turns out it doesn't.
yeah.
But
It's
just because
close.
you
It's very
just
close.
right, just because you see something in the position, like obviously taking this knight looks great, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best move.
Yeah,
Um, and that's partially how they end up in puzzles. Is like this looks obvious, but it's actually losing for some reason. Right? It's not
yeah.
here. I'm sure this is the right answer. Um, but then now what to do?
Now you Greek gift him. Now you take on h7 because when
Over?
your queen goes over, you're double attacking the bishop.
That's smart.
What?
Not so smart, apparently. No flame.
Wait, okay. So the idea here that I had was that after, so just so everybody understands, like after takes,
Don't let me, but
king takes, your queen goes over, but doesn't work because they throw in the move. No,
why doesn't this work actually?
why doesn't that work? Because king doesn't have to take.
Yeah, but then I just win a pawn, and I already won a piece.
That's wild, actually.
Why?
Because
I'm a little
king doesn't take,
bamboozled.
and then queen threatens checkmate by moving to h6. And so they win the bishop back.
Oh, but I can go. I can go here.
It's not threatening checkmate.
What's the answer though?
That's wild.
I'm bamboozled.
Is it rook takes bishop?
Oh no, it's here.
Oh, yeah, you just do it immediately.
Yeah, no, I just take.
Yeah, okay.
That's upsetting. All right, I want to see what the engine says though, because I like our idea too. Is this? It's probably a draw.
Yeah, it's the second best move in the position. That's losing.
Why is this worse? Am I down? Do I have less
You're
pieces?
down too many pawns, I think.
Do I have less pieces? Hold on. So it's even material. We're down one pawn. Oh, we have an extra bishop. It's the same result. We just didn't sacrifice the bishop.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Interesting.
All right.
But yeah, it's the same idea. So we did see that there was a threat on that pawn, but we didn't see the right
Yeah, you can
sequence.
just go first. And
Yeah,
this
do
is
it, please.
actually, we sort of talked about this earlier. It's sort of like the removing the defender idea we saw in the game today, where
Yeah.
it's not, obviously it's not the same tactic, but it was just being patient, right?
Yeah.
This threat, Gotham chess calls this danger levels. If anyone watches Gotham, because the bigger threat right now is taking this pawn with checkmate, so you have to defend against it, but that lets you take the bishop because you can't defend the bishop and the pawn.
Yeah.
Essentially. That's frustrating. All right, we have time.
One
for
of the
a couple
things
more.
that you'll find as a common motif when you try and do these puzzles is that they work if you switch up the move order.
That's true actually.
Yeah. But the move order matters a lot. So the first thing I'm looking at here is, again, always do checks first. Queen a5 is the only check that you have in the position. Well, you technically have bishop b4, but that instantly just loses the bishop. Is it
This
just
seems
winning
good.
a pawn?
Oh no, it's winning this knight. Save
Oh.
blocks. I can take, and take.
Yeah, okay. Good eye. I think that's it.
Nope, it's not.
And we're wrong.
Oh,
Other way.
Okay.
Do it other way.
I
Bishop
think
first.
I think we're being too excited. We can just take. You can literally just take the knight.
Yeah.
Because if it takes, just do this. So we kind of got too excited again. We're like we starting on checks and we're not actually looking at captures and attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if we'd looked at just like capture, we'd be like, wait, this is just hanging.
Yeah.
So if you can just trade and I don't know. This is clearly better. So we got too excited. Why is this not good? Oh, because the queen gets attacked.
All right, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, darn it. All right, we're sort of not putting on a great show, but that's okay.
This is hard, you guys.
This is really hard. It's a lot harder than it seems like it shouldn't be, but even in like those high level positions, like whatever random square you put your rook on, like matters somehow,
Yeah.
and you sort of have to like figure it out.
Okay. I think this is bishop takes g3
All right, takes back.
because after pawn takes, you trap the queen with your knight.
That's it's like a smothered mate, except it's. Should we try it?
You can.
Boom. Right
See, we
on.
can do it.
Trapped piece. That was a trapped piece. Was it
Yeah.
a sacrifice? I guess it was. True. That
So
was a
so
long
that so
puzzle.
just let's go back a little bit
Yeah.
and just look at so I we look at this, the very first thing we do, there are no checks that we have in the position. There's no way we can give the king check. Now we look at captures. Okay? And that's you can capture on F3, you can capture on G or F2, you can capture on G4, you can capture the knight on D4. And I'm sure that taking the knight or taking the pawn on d4 is fine. And you can see in the top right that the computer evaluates that as -1, right? That's still winning. But after bishop takes g3, you notice that the queen has no squares that it can go to. And so if this pawn takes, then it's trapped. It has no squares that it can move to.
That's
Now,
true.
the other thing that we have to check is what we're supposed to do. So take with bishop. Is what happens if they don't take, right? This is the other thing you have to do when you're calculating, because, well, we have the luxury of looking at the computer, and the computer says, yeah, you have to take with the pawn and give up the queen. But in the actual game, you don't know that. You don't get to look at an engine
Right. Maybe I
and
just
just
go
see.
here.
In which case, the attack is still kind of devastating. You still can't take the bishop. And now you're bringing over the queen to potentially hunt the checkmate because now the king has no moves,
Right. So now
right?
we've substituted the queen for the king, or the king for the queen. Now
Yeah.
the king is the one that's getting in trouble. We have mate threat here.
So
Yeah.
those are the steps that you need to take in order to actually make sure these work. We were a little bit lucky. I immediately noticed that the knight can attack the queen without and it has no moves.
Yep.
But those
That's
are the
smart.
things that you need to
Yep.
do.
You got to notice. I mean, it sort of you kind of see the motif, and as the game develops too, right? Because again, you would be playing this in a game from the opening. Okay, so we'll just kind of go along. The castle. Okay, this looks like a pretty normal position.
Hmm.
Right? Oopsie. We're at a pretty normal place. Okay, I'm pushing. Nothing really too exciting is going on. Maybe this is a bit of a mistake, but that's not really relevant. But then, okay, there's no real time to think about it. But sometimes you might notice like the queen and the king are aligned. So you might want to bring a rook to the file. Here, it's a one move tactic, so you'd have to see it immediately. But sort of as the game develops, if this had happened a couple of moves ago, maybe my knight was back
Yeah.
here, you could kind of notice, this queen has no squares, right? So if I can get a knight here, I'm better, or I'm going to win the queen. So if my knight is here in the situation, you might play knight to g4 with the idea of doing this.
Yeah.
And so as you're sort of playing the game, you can sort of notice those ideas of like, okay, this square is sort of weak. The queen is here, and if my knight's over here or whatever, just kind of take note and then keep thinking about how you can exploit those potential weaknesses.
Yeah. The one other thing I would like to add to that is when you're playing, you'll oftentimes see a move by your opponent, and you'll just get this feeling that that's wrong.
Yeah.
And you don't know why, right? Like, I see this move backwards by the knight, and as soon as I saw it, like, there's just this gut feeling that, like, that's wrong, but I don't know why. And then you notice that Carl and I were spending a lot of time on certain moves. This is why, is because we spend that time thinking, that's wrong, but why?
Right.
And so you just go through the checklist, and you'll oftentimes find why it was wrong. I won't always find you the answer because sometimes it's more complicated, and the engine will be a scumbag and say, "Hey, you had this crazy attack, but it requires weird sacrifices." And if you don't find those, don't feel bad. The best players in the world also struggle to find those. So
Right. I mean,
don't
I
worry about it.
think like if we this is maybe sort of a tangent, but if we go look at the U.S. Championship game, I think it's maybe around 7. Nope. It's the game Fabiano against Hans. which Fabi won. I'm going to go find it. There's a crazy engine line just to sort of demonstrate how hard chess is. I promise it's one of these games. No,
Mm,
what game are you?
there it is, Fabiano
Here
Hans.
we go. And of course,
You
I
clicked on
clicked
the
on the
wrong
wrong
one.
game. Yeah, fantastic.
Nice.
There's a draw at the end part of this game right here. Right, so we're playing this like rook end game. There's a couple moments in here that I can kind of point out, but so we're just sort of playing along, and it's +1 pawn for black, for Fabiano with the black pieces, and he plays check. Okay, the king steps down, and he just sort of innocently checks again, and this is a draw. Why is it a draw? Well, you can play king to g1, and the idea basically is that the king is going to get to this side of the board, and you can't really stop it. Whereas if you don't play the tickle, which they call it, with just another check, and you sort of keep attacking, or just move the rook back to defend, you're fine. But so when you're playing, right, like, what is the actual difference here between here, here, and here? Well, okay, this is going to get me closer, and so I'm going to be able to sort of zigzag my way over a little bit more easily. There is also a moment, a real computer moment. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Where in one of these situations, like rook to g2 was like several points better than rook to g1 in a position sort of like this for no real evident reason. Yeah. Which is sort of, I don't know if I can find rook to g1 in here somewhere, but he plays it, and like rook to g2 is much better, and no one really knows why. So it's just an interesting. I just thought it was interesting. I remembered it. We were talking about the crazy engine moves, where like seemingly randomly to humans, this is like, does where this rook is doesn't seem like it matters at all. But maybe like this is a lot better than one of the other squares. Puzzles are back. That was my random tangent. Josh is like, I don't know what you're talking about anymore, but now you know.
Okay, hold on. I want to find the best move of all time. I will send you
Got it.
a link really quick so you can pull it up.
Do it.
So this is a very famous puzzle, right? While we're on this weird tangent. And Stockfish, which is generally regarded as the best computer in the world, right? So the best players in the world have ratings around 2,800. Stockfish is currently rated about 3,500. This is a move where you can turn on Stockfish actually, and go forward one move. So this is widely considered the coolest move and the best move in the world, right? It is widely considered the craziest thing that we've ever seen.
This game is from 1998, by the way. Just
yeah.
Is this a correspondence game?
I don't remember.
Okay. It claims it's correspondence chess, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
We can maybe find out later. All right, explain away, and I will drive.
Yeah. So this is widely considered absolutely wild. But what the entire move is this is Veselin Topalov and Alexei Shirov, and this is played in 1998, which you can see in the top left. And despite what the engine is saying with -2, this is a situation where, because the bishops are actually opposite colors, is a draw. This is actually a draw. The computer has evaluated it wrong, and if you let it run infinitely, this is a situation where you cannot win with black, despite what the computer says, except for one move. Right? If you were to just let this engine run for forever, it won't get it.
It will sort of not understand.
Yeah, but the big thing that you need to do is finally realize, oh, and as the depth gets deeper, it starts to recognize what is going on. You look, are there any checks? No. Are there any captures? No. Are there any attacks? Yeah, you could move the G pawn or the D pawn forward one as black.
Yep.
But none of those do anything. And this is something where if you take the bishop on f5, put it on h3, it's the only way to win the game. And the reason why is because it prevents the white king from moving. Because if the king starts moving away, you can actually take the pawn. But it puts both of these pawns on the outside of the board so that the white bishop can't defend. And it allows your king to come forward quickly enough that the white king can't get in time.
Also, ironically, every move except this is a draw. Still,
Yeah,
with 4 pawns against essentially one.
yeah.
Opposite color bishop endings like this are absurd.
Chess is hard, you guys.
In the game he played, did he play it?
He played it, yeah, he found it.
And then, all right, the computer's confused because it's at low depth and computers struggle with this. And he wins the game. Wow, that's a crazy move. Like an absurd move. That's the only winning idea. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Especially when you confuse the engine. I think that's like the coolest.
Yeah, there's a couple things that engines won't find.
Yep.
They're generally better at endgames than we are, than humans are. But they're not very good at identifying what are called fortresses, but I think that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, I think a lot of times they'll sort of give like minus 1.5 in like a essentially drawn position, or like when pawns are actually locked up
Yeah.
in like bishop games where it's actually, I guess it's better in their mind, but it's actually not winnable. Which,
Yeah.
like, why aren't you giving 0-0? I don't know. But yeah, that is fascinating. A fascinating discussion. I think we had a good time with the puzzles. I had fun. We didn't get a lot of them right, but a nice queen trap spot by Josh.
Mhm.
That was well played. I think we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we will be back with the final region of the day, the West region. So we'll be back with one more best of 3 at the top of the hour. Don't go away. We will return shortly.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Stride Esports League Week 5. We have our Chess Tuesdays continuing with Joshi and Carl yet again, and we're moving into the Western region, the last region of the day. And today we have Josiah, Dr. Evilman 12, and Lila Goat 7 coming through, representing the Arizona Virtual Academy and the International School of Arizona against the California Virtual Academies coming through as our last one.
Indeed. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the coaching session. We are now set for that final best of 3 of the day. Josiah doing very well for himself for the California Virtual Academies. Dr. Evilman 12 looking to put up another strong showing, one of our higher rated players thus far, and he is in the Crystal division since we're on that check today, I guess. Figuring out what division they are in. So playing a lot, but he's been in Crystal for it looks like 5 weeks in a row at least. So
There you
it's hard to
go.
get out. I think only the top 3 get out or something. So
Yeah, when you start getting towards the top, it's like top 3, top 1 is the only one who gets into the legend. But while we wait for them to get into game, it is interesting to note that a couple of Josiah's, Lila's recent games have actually been ending in draws, which is pretty uncommon at the low level of play, right? It is another large rating discrepancy as Dr. Evilman 12 is rated about 1300, whereas Goat 7 Lila is about 300. So this should be probably another repeat situation of what we saw in the Central region.
indeed, but there's always chances. You get some fun opening prep. You get a fun trap going on. Anything um, could come out, and both these players play a reasonable amount. It looks like in the last couple of weeks they've been doing pretty well for themselves in those divisions, which is just sort of a little bit of a gauge of how I guess active they are on the site. So they both play a lot. Looks like they're enjoying themselves, and hopefully we get at least some entertaining games. The second to last game that was played by Lila was 86 moves,
It's a
and
lot of moves.
that ended in 2 kings and 1 knight, which is a draw. You cannot mate with that. So a lot of pretty long games that Lila's been playing.
Yeah. It's not like there's been a lot of capturing back and forth, a lot of trading coming through. We'll see how well that ends out. If you are playing against a stronger player than you, it's not the worst idea to just trade everything on the board and, hope that you can get to an end game that is a draw. But then it does take a lot of accuracy, right? We've been saying chess is hard. End games are some of the hardest parts of the game. One of the places where I definitely got probably my first jump of like 600 points is when I was rated about like 600 on chess.com. I just would trade everything, take people down to an end game, and just understand pawn end games better than people at that rating. So it is not without a couple of traps in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's always been one of my favorite strategies. I wish I was better at end games. I've always thought the end game is just fascinating in the way that it works, in the way that seemingly innocent moves sometimes just there goes the game, blundered away. With 2 pawns on the board, where you'd think you'd be safer, but oftentimes you're not actually.
Yeah.
In that sort of situation, so I had a couple books on the end game that I sort of didn't read and then sent back to the library, so that was sort of awkward. But
Uh-oh.
I'm hoping with my new book, Mayhem and the Mora, I own it now, so I don't have to get rid of it. So I can keep it and hopefully do some studying. I have a tournament in December. It's a classical
Oh, you
tournament.
do?
Yeah, 90 plus 30. So like
Wow.
serious classical. It's actually it's in Madison. It's in the hometown, so I don't have to go anywhere, which was a big.
Over
That's
the
like
board?
yeah, it's over the board. It's
Nice.
at a hotel like down the road essentially.
Yeah.
So that's I think it's just nice not to have a 3 hour drive and a
Yeah.
hotel stay, and it's a lot cheaper. I mean, gas and hotel and food and all that, being able to just go home at the end of the day. So, but yes,
Yeah.
it's 3 90 plus 30 games on Saturday and 2 games on Sunday.
That that is brutal.
Yeah,
That is brutal. So just okay, we'll talk about it a little bit later. We are getting into our first game where Dr. Evilman Josiah is going to be playing with the white piece, and we can go ahead and pull that up, Caddy. They haven't started just quite yet. Now,
clock is ticking. He's puzzling over that first
he
move.
should get the time back, from what I understand,
Mhm.
when they actually make the first move.
Oh, we didn't.
Oh, we didn't.
He
Uh-oh.
lost 20 seconds. That's tough. I think
Well,
he'll be okay. Will we have a Petrov? Will we have? There's a lot of things we could go here.
now I generally play. Ooh, it is a
Ooh!
Petrov.
Stafford
Takes.
Gambit. Stafford Gambit. Stafford Gambit.
Okay, Stafford Gambit would be coming out from here,
Uh
but
oh.
no.
Oh. Oh no. I
It's a
think
little
I
bit
think we're
tricky.
thinking the same thing. Maybe what might be about
Yeah.
to happen.
Now you do have to retreat this knight. You cannot continue remaining symmetrical because you would just lose your knight immediately afterwards.
Yeah, you actually cannot retreat the knight. If you retreat the knight, you lose the queen. Um,
Oh, true. Yeah, there's a
you do
lot of
have to.
traps.
Yeah, you got. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of ways you can go wrong. I guess let's say in this position, as that is one of them, and immediately found by Doctor Evilman, that is going to be the queen's life taken away. You can either block the check with the queen, gets taken by the knight, or you can block the bishop, and the queen gets taken by the knight. Has to take back with the king, and already a material disadvantage and a positional weakness with the king not being able to castle as Lila falls
Yeah,
victim to the copycat trick.
I forgot about. Yeah, there's multiple tricks in this position,
Yeah.
right? And I forgot about that one because there are a lot of ways for Petrovs to go wrong. It is generally considered very draw-ish, very likely to result in draws at the highest level of play, but not here. You need to know all the traps, you need to be able to play it. Taking the symmetrical Petrov is very dangerous. I would generally recommend against it, because as this knight comes through, like this rook has to come in, and then suddenly the king has no squares that it can go to.
Yeah, absolutely. The Petrov is it's a fun opening. I keep needing to learn it, but everyone tells me it's boring, so maybe I don't want to
It's
learn
kind of boring, but
it.
I'll be honest, I dislike the Italian and the Spanish games so much that I prefer to play the Petrov.
That was sort of my thought,
Yeah,
honestly. It was like I just don't want to do all that theory, and I feel like people are prepping most of their time for like Berlin's or like Italian or Spanish, but like maybe they're not prepping as much for Petrov in like
yeah,
in a random club tournament.
fair, fair, fair. Well, a +10 already coming out for Josiah as Lila trying to come back and already going directly in. This is unusual, right? There's not a lot of openings where the queen being the only active piece for your side is good, but this is a situation where since you've already picked up the opposing queen, it's very, very difficult for Lila to do anything to really kind of bring his position back. It will require probably a blundering of the queen by Dr. Evilman, and I think they're at a ranking where that shouldn't be a real consideration.
Check. Bishop blocks or knight blocks. I guess both work. But you do have to block with something here. Those are the only legal moves. King cannot move right now, which is never a good sign. Actually, the knight, I almost think knight to d5 might be a strong move here. Just maintaining that pin.
Yep. Putting more pressure on the pin piece. Put pressure on the pin piece. There you go. Gotham calls that PP on the PP. And this is. Oh, yep.
That's going to be mate on the board. You take back with the bishop, and then queen captures on e7 will be checkmate.
There you go. So we were talking earlier about traps in the game, right?
Yep.
About ways that you can come up with easy ways to come up with big advantages on the board, just in general, right? You create a lot of pressure just by knowing some of these openings. And as we kind of saw, right, Josiah knew the traps, knew
Yes,
both of them.
we are back in the game.
Yeah. Oh
By the way,
gosh.
I just want to make sure that we don't miss the opening too much. It is another French defense on the board, but yeah, absolutely falling victim to that kind of trap where if you just,
Okay, we got it open.
especially seemingly innocent moves,
Yeah.
where you just kind of play natural moves and oh, I'm losing my queen, and that sort of feels the worst because you're not really sure what happened, and you just sort of have to learn a lot of the most common traps and hope that you only fall victim to them once or twice.
Yeah. And very interesting. We do have it up, Caddy, on my screen right now. We already have a lot of pieces falling off the board, but a clean blunder of a knight coming through already puts Layla in another tough position as Josiah finds himself a -3 already. And again, another common motif is when the center of the board is open, when there aren't very many pawns on the D and E files, it becomes very dangerous for any pieces or for any side that has not yet castled. But as this piece comes out with check, it will be traded off, the tempo will be lost, and ultimately, it's not as dire as it was in the previous because it's a knight instead of a queen. but even just a piece should be enough for Josiah to find a definitive
Yep,
advantage.
absolutely. And just castling here,
Oh,
that gives away that piece. So it is now two pieces. Rook e1 check will save the rook. You can also push the pawn d2, d3 to defend that rook. Dr. Evilman Josiah here still has his king in the center of the board, but I'm not too concerned about that. Um, there are, you can play rook e1 check, multi-purpose, but you can just block out with the bishop or the knight, move the king even. And I think his king will be quite safe. He is up. Just a lot of material. The rook's now going to fall off as well, I would imagine. Um, not looking so good for Lila thus far.
does take it back, but you can already see a very strong advantage. This bishop is now still a little bit entombed by the pawns. And so now we're going to have to see how Josiah actually consolidates their position, right? They have an opportunity to cancel, get this dark sword bishop out, bring the knight, put the rook here, put the rooks on the D and E files, so that they are just creating a lot of pressure in the middle of the board. But in the meantime, we do have to wait a little bit, because even though this position is crushing, there aren't easy ways to find checkmate with just a knight and a queen.
Yeah, absolutely. You do want to bring some more pieces to the fray. I'm imagining bishop to d6 might be a move here, putting pressure on the h2 pawn. Maybe some ideas of mating on h2 later if you can remove the knight, developing and allowing yourself to castle. So a lot of purpose there. Knight b to d7 or knight to c6 also works. Just bringing some more forces into the fray.
So, trying to find a little bit of counterplay, but the queen will simply just move. I would love to see this bishop being brought somewhere to the defense, right? We were talking about d6 earlier, kind of trade that off. You generally don't want to trade when you are behind, but this bishop is just long-range artillery, right? Staring at the h2 square, and you can't really do a whole lot about that other than getting rid of it. So we'll see what kind of angles they do want to take. This pawn is a little bit weak as well. Immediately going after it, but unfortunately that will be giving up another pawn.
Snapped up straight away, giving maybe even a better square for the bishop now on c5, the square the pawn was just occupying. Um, that's a possibility too.
Creates a pin on the f2 square.
I think long castle here also would be quite strong for black. Just put pressure on the d3 pawn. Pawn currently on d3.
I do like that move as well, right? Preventing bishop c5 rather cleanly. And it does ask, like, it makes it the long castle a little bit more worrying, because with the semi-open files over here and the ways to kind of move around, you do have some pieces on the board. Unfortunately, another blunder of a piece.
Indeed. Taken away. Snapped off the board. That is unfortunate
Mm-hmm.
for Lila. Now down 11 points of material, and I imagine the attack will continue here in quite fierce fashion, one would imagine.
Yep. Check finally does come out. I probably block it and then look to castle immediately afterwards, and Josiah agrees. Probably going to be castling short in order to bring that to the table, but you can already see an 11-point material advantage, and the advantage according to the eval bar even a little bit larger than that.
Pieces
Another
traded
rook falls
off.
off.
Yep. Loose pieces fall off, as some people say. I think that's the
Hmm.
chess saying. Indeed, they do.
That sounds
Plus,
smart.
yeah, plus 21, at least from my engine, um, for Josiah here. Finally castling, getting the king to safety. Likely to bring the rooks into the game, clean up these pawns, and look to start an attack on Lila's king.
Yeah. The big thing that I'm currently worried about is back rank problems coming in for Lila, right? Because you have these three pawns directly in front of the king. The king cannot take his own pieces. So if there were to be a rook or a queen here, you would have to trade off. So I'm expecting something like this in order to create pressure right here. Get a queen trade, rook comes down and ends the game.
Queen captures there. No en passant. I thought we might see an end peasant, but unfortunately not. Queen takes an a4. This you can just escort this pawn down the board and essentially do exactly what you were planning on,
Mm-hmm.
but just with a new queen instead.
Ooh.
Why not?
So this has
Yeah.
been a rather fast day of chess coming out as we do wait for Josiah to finish things out. Do you know what their records are going into today?
Oh, I don't, but I can find out relatively quickly. So I will get on that. I know that Josiah thus far is 2-2
Oh,
on the season. He has won his last two games and he lost his first two games. And it actually they're both 2-2. Lila is
oh,
also 2-2, and they have gone win loss
all right.
thus far.
We'll still picking up a couple of wins on the board as well.
Yeah.
Now, this does create a lot of pressure here still. You can bring the bishop in order to attack and dislodge the knight. And so it does look like some of our back rank warriors were becoming an issue. If the computer were at a higher depth, basically a greater number of moves that it is calculating ahead of time, I'm pretty confident that the computer would be able to find mates in this position. But for now, it does take a little bit of time, and it looks like Josiah will be trying to do it with his second queen.
Nothing wrong with that. I think that makes, in general, a lot of sense.
Yeah, win is a
Just to
win.
sort of, yeah, absolutely. I've turned my depth up, so we'll see if it thinks more.
My engine is saying mate in 10
Okay,
after
mine's still on
c6.
plus 25. So
Ah,
Josh's computer is stronger.
haha.
Continues to be confirmed. But yeah, looks like this is not going to go well for Lila. Make another queen, attack the king. I would imagine this one will be over in about 5 or 10 moves. At this point, unfortunately, just two victors in the last
Yeah,
two series we've seen.
I liked knowing the Petrov chaps, right? Right. It is a bit more of something that you need to kind of understand why you're making the moves you're making instead of just blitzing them out a lot of the time. And you can punish a lot of players just knowing a little bit more theory than your opponents. And we've talked about it quite a bit, right? Like knowing moves that your opponents don't. There's some really cool gambits and traps that you can pull out at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate and one threat on the board. And it is
And there
not
it is.
seen. And that should be the end of the game. Josiah, he has mate in one. Will he find it? Also a royal fork. Knight e2
True.
check. But that's a classic puzzle situation where you play the royal fork and it goes wrong. And you're sort of like, come on.
But I won a queen.
Right.
Yes, but you could have won the game instantly.
When you see a good move, look for a better one. Finds
There
it.
it is.
Checkmate on the board. Josiah, a commanding 2-0 lead in. Josh, that was almost as dominating as the Central Series.
Yeah. Both Central and Western are very fast. We also saw the Eastern. We saw one reasonably close game, but
Mhm.
another one where, an opening experiment didn't quite go right. And so
Yep.
we find ourselves in a very fast day of chess here for the Stride Esports League. Yeah, do you have any quick stories before we start wrapping up for the day?
I think I'm sort of out of stories. My tragic defeat at the chess camp was the main highlight of my youthful chess career. I'll come up with some more fun stories for next week. But I
Yeah,
think
maybe you can tell
yeah,
us
I'm
about your upcoming chess tournament at some point. But
we'll do it.
anyway,
Got it.
let's make sure that we still know what's going on as we see a quick victory here by Josiah. Just a quick reminder that it's not only chess that we do here at the Stride Esports League. It changes from day to day. Starting with League of Legends, we go to chess, Fortnite, Rocket League, and we end the week over with Valorant on Fridays. So make sure you come back. And I am told that there are community events going on all the time. If you're interested in playing in some ARAMs with other people around the world, just make sure you tune in on Mondays where we will have more information on that. But for now, I have been Joshi. This has been Carl. We've had some very fast chess, and we will see you guys all next week.